Yes, when it rains, there are waterfalls that come off this plateau. This is really lovely. You can see the definition of the rocks up here. I have some iris in here. I have about 17 varieties of iris around the property, and when they all get blooming in the summertime, springtime, it's really nice. In the summertime, it looks totally different. It's why you like the seasons. You get to see it come out of its dormancy and break and flourish into something green and pretty. I'm a crafty person. I'm a handyman. I enjoy that. I've been working the last couple of years putting sidewalks in because I'm building a garden area over here that I think you'll find interesting. These are planter boxes I put in. I built the garage. This is the casita that I built for my mom about 10 years ago. Maybe not quite 10 years ago. So that's where she lives. She's 90 years old. Maybe we'll stop by and say hi to her. This is the casita that I built for my mom about 10 years ago. Anybody home?
I'm an old lady.
She's 90 years old. Maybe we'll stop by
And I mean old. Like ancient.
So 90 years old?
90
years old.
90 and a half.
90?
And I mean old.
I am a golfer. I've always loved golf. I spent a good deal of my life around golf courses. But I really got involved in golf when I was in the Marine Corps. The commander of our unit came over one day and told me I was going to go play golf. I always loved golf. So I said, aye, sir. I started playing golf regularly. It was the majority of my career, 28 years worth of life, working on golf courses. I made a hole-in-one with this ball here. I love golf courses. It has a lot to do with admiring the surroundings of the planet here as well.
That one I think is quite all right.
I love golf.
I believe that one is quite all right.
I am also, by nature, a religious person as well. I believe in the grand wonder of a creator. I really enjoy life. It has mostly to do with how I feel. I feel good. I feel good all the time. I feel ready. Matter of fact, if it wasn't so cold, I'd be up playing golf right now. It has mostly to do with how I feel. I feel good. I feel good all the time. I feel ready. When I found out I had hepatitis C, of course it gave me a start. And I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. Once I was diagnosed, the doctors wanted to put me into the clinic for a biopsy. That scared me to death. I wasn't familiar with the symptoms. I wasn't familiar with what happened to people who had hepatitis C. I had to dig up information on what it meant to have hepatitis C. Now, of course, when I read up on it, then it got scarier and scarier by the moment. It pretty much boiled down to me having picked up hepatitis C when I was in Vietnam. It's likely that I got it with the jet gun, which they used to give us inoculations with what they call a jet gun. They would line us up in a long row of people, and as you walked along, you would get an inoculation in each shoulder. You get two at once. So what started out being something that I wasn't paying too much attention to, ended up being something that was a real drag on my outlook. Became a pressing issue. There was a friend in my neighborhood, once I told him that I had it, he suggested that I go see Dr. Howard, and I did, and he gave me some reassuring words, and I was ready for reassuring words. And when he told me that we could take the biopsy appointment and push it back and not worry about it for the time being, I was very happy to accommodate him in that. And Dr. Howard put me on a regimen of fruits and vegetables, the Balance of Nature product, which has essentially saved happy to accommodate him in that. And Dr. Howard put me on a regimen of fruits and vegetables. My life and helped me to live a normal, happy life. Taking Balance of Nature did other things for me. My main focus was to take care of hepatitis C. But after taking it for a while, I realized that other good things were happening with my health. I was feeling more energetic. My mental acuity had increased. I could put thoughts together better than I had before. When I play golf, I would notice that bending over to line up a putt, I would have a bit of a struggle to stand back up. But even now, 10 years later, I stand up better than I did then. 10 years later, I stand up better now than I did then. Taking Balance of Nature, getting fruits and vegetables into your system is just another option. It's another way to deal with hepatitis C. I will live happily with hepatitis C instead of perhaps feeling like I want to die because someone's trying to cure me of it. I'm James Furr. I'm a 70-year-old Vietnam veteran, and I have hepatitis C. But thanks to Balance of Nature, I live a normal, happy, healthy, pain-free life.
live stream. Testing the live stream. Can you see everything in the live stream? Yeah? And do you hear it too? Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, so those that have come in, just make sure that you cozy up because there's a lot of people still coming in for the lecture. So if there's any empty spaces, if you can scoot to the middle, that would be great.
My name's Charity White. I am a mother, I'm a blogger. I'm passionate about health and politics, immunizations. I love to run and play guitar. I have 2 little girls, and they're 3 and 1. They're very adorable and cute. I've been married almost 5 years now. We live in Idaho together in Twin Falls. I've been pretty blessed. I believe in attitude. I believe that as long as you can stay positive, you won't have very many trials. When we got married, they'd say, oh, just wait till you're married a few years, it's gonna be hard. And it's not, it's easier having a helper. It's the same with kids. People would say, oh, just wait till they can walk, and it's gonna be hard, you know, and it's not, it gets better and better. So on my blog, it's all about getting both sides and not judging the person that puts something up, whether it's the side I agree with or not. A few of the things that I'm really passionate about on the blog that I post a lot about: homeschool, immunization, and home births. Things that are somewhat controversial. I'm trying to straighten those ideas out and get the facts. So. I have had a very unique upbringing. Dr. Howard's my dad, and I was there throughout the whole process of Balance of Nature. He started off with a really great chiropractic office, and he was doing really well for himself. You know, I kind of watched him as a little girl. He came up with the idea of Balance of Nature. I remember as a kid taking vitamins, those big old horse pills and you know, the gummy vitamins, all of that. And slowly he started stopping, you know, not giving it to us anymore. And my dad, he is a scientist. He loves to just study things out. Maybe I got a little bit of that from him, although I do get a little bored when it comes to science. But he loves to study things out and figure things out. So he started seeing studies that vitamins might be harmful, not helpful, and figuring out what was helpful, because there had to be something. And he came up with the idea of Balance of Nature. And I remember when he bought this little pill maker, and it was literally like 60 pills at a time. And he started giving it to family and friends, and you could not deny some of the results. I saw my dad going through, you know, he thought it's either chiropractics or Balance of Nature, and he went all in, and he bought all the material he needed. He bought the building, and he just said, I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna make this happen, because he knew what it could do. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. I really look up to him for that, for doing that. But it was quite a journey getting there, and I didn't see that coming. You know, he didn't have workers, and it was kind of a work to survive thing. If we wanted to eat, we needed to work, you know, and I was labeled the production manager, but I was the only one, you know, and it was me, Helena, Lex. Lex is now the CEO. And we would go back there, my dad would show us the right way to do it, the right way to clean. It was very professional, clean. You know, I remember one time a FDA guy came in, and he wanted to kind of check it out. We weren't big enough to really care, you know, for them to care that much. But he came and checked it out, and he said, this is the cleanest place I've ever seen. And it was so small, and we took so much pride in it, because it was just me and my brothers and sisters who did it. We didn't have a farm that my parents could teach us hard work. That was our farm. I am the person that I am because of that. And it was hard at times, but I'm really grateful for it, and I'm grateful for my dad's example, that he believed in himself enough to do that. It was a great example to me that he was willing to give up his livelihood to do something that he knew was right. And I look at it now, and I'm not a part of it anymore, but I look at it now and I think, wow, it has grown so much. They've come leaps and bounds, and the people that they're able to help and the studies they've been able to do. I never saw that as a kid. I didn't know when I was working until 6 a.m., you know, when I was working late nights and thinking, when is this gonna end? I didn't know that I was helping people as well. I do take pride in knowing that even though it was a lot of hard work, I take pride in realizing that he couldn't have done it without us and without our family. And now we're able to help tons of people to get the nutrients that they need and live better lives. Balance of nature for me, it's really just a peace of mind. And I've taken it for a long time, 10 years, and I have noticed permanent differences, huge differences. Same for my kids. It's a good feeling for me to know that I can give them those nutrients as a mom, and I don't think many other kids are getting that. And it's just a good feeling to know that I can do that for my kids. My name's Charity White, maiden name Charity Howard. My father is Dr. Howard. I'm a runner, I am a blogger, I'm a singer-songwriter, and I take Balance of Nature course.
Great. My name's Lex Howard, so I'm Charity White's brother and Dr. Howard's son, and I now run Balance of Nature. We're just so grateful that you guys are here. We do a lot of this kind of stuff in other places, and we happen to be from St. George, and we figure we should probably let the people of St. George know what we're doing and support our customers. So we're so grateful that you're able to be here. We have not only Dr. Howard here, but we also have Laura Smith. Where's Laura? I don't see Laura. Oh, awesome. So we have Laura Smith, and you saw her in the video. She does a lot of work for WABC out of New York City, and she has done so much for us. We're extremely grateful for her. Laura is obviously being from Manhattan and being able to be on radio. She is very accomplished. She works with a lot of businesses and helping them expand and things on radio. She also, I could go on about a lot of different things that Laura does, but I wanted to have Laura just talk a little bit about Dr. Howard and the experience that she's had with Dr. Howard, and then we will turn the time over to him. Great.
Thank you, Lex. I'm used to a microphone. Wow. This is a big sort of dream come true for me, in that since the day I met the Howards, which we're still trying to figure out if it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, 9 years ago. We can't remember, because it's almost like we can't remember a time when we weren't sort of connected, because that's the way the Howards are. So I want to thank you for welcoming me here. I have honestly never been to a more beautiful place on earth as St. George, Utah. I keep saying, I feel like I'm in the middle of a movie. This is amazing. It is so beautiful here, and even more beautiful than the scenery and the rocks and the mountains and the family that I'm staying with, the Howards, are the people that I've met here. It's really interesting to me how you go to different parts of the country or different parts of the world. I grew up overseas in South America, Brazil, and Australia, but I'm originally from Indiana, but I've been in New York for 100 years. And, but wherever you go in the country, you find a different spirit of people, and it's really incredible. I've only been here 4 days, but I've grown to love the what do you call it, Utahians? Just beautiful. It's obviously something the Howards, I'm learning from them, but it really is everybody in the company that I've met and the people beyond, so I know you're the same. So the 6 or 7 years ago, I've been doing radio for 21 years this month. In fact, it was 2 weeks before Thanksgiving that I talked on a microphone for the first time in a radio station. And back in 2010, I started a show called Living Better. And it was really, the idea was just to talk to businesses and business leaders who were helping to help other people live better lives. And out of the blue comes Lex Howard, Susan Howard, and Douglas Howard. And I get to talk about something I never thought I'd be talking about on the air, but fruits and vegetables that come in a capsule. That was kind of new for me. But from moment one, I knew that this was something special and different, and this family had something not only to teach me, but to offer the world in this incredible product. So I started taking Balance of Nature. They wanted me to see what it was all about. And so I said, okay, how bad can it be if some fruits and vegetables or whatever? And I was kind of floored by the fact that I felt probably like all of you have felt at different times when you've taken Balance of Nature, and those of you who haven't, now you're going to. I felt an immediate difference in my, I don't know, my energy, in my outlook, in my clarity of just, it's hard to understand, but health, just overall wellness. I started taking this product. We continued to do the show. We were doing it once a month at that time. Then it went to once every 2 weeks, and then we started doing it every week. The Howards would be in Germany. We would still be doing our radio show. I went into the hospital one time for, my cat scratched me and my hand got infected, and I did the radio show from the hospital bed with my Balance of Nature as I'm taking him the whole time I was on the air. So I grew to understand that this was more than a gimmick, than a product that we're just trying to sell and make some money here. And I started realizing that this is something that no one else has ever even remotely tried to come up with, nor have they succeeded in really truly doing what they say they do. So over these past 7 years, I have become, without anybody even asking me to, I'm an evangelist for Balance of Nature because of what it's done for me. So my daughter is on it. My family started taking it, and I just think Dr. Howard and Susan and Lex wanted me to talk just a little bit about what my own personal experience, some of the amazing effects that it's had on my family. My dad was a world traveler back in the 1960s, and he picked up some kind of bizarre virus from one of the tropical places that he had been to. And it was, for all these last 40 years, it's dormant in his body, but every now and again, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times a year, he would get these high fevers and very violent, body shakes. It was scary. And it got to the point where it was becoming so debilitating on his life that he was afraid to get excited about any family gathering, Christmas, anything like that, because he knew that he would end up getting the shakes and be in bed for the entire thing for 2 weeks. 2 days ago, when I told him, or 2 days before I came out here to St. George, he said, please remind Dr. Howard and Lex and Susan, please remind them that I so stand by this product. He said, do you know I can't remember when the last time was I had one of my shaking episodes and my fever episodes? Even I didn't know that. I knew that he was taking Balance of Nature all the time, and he was saying, I'm not getting colds anymore. He's 81. He's like, I don't get a cold anymore. This is impossible. I get colds all the time. So I knew that was going on, but it wasn't until 2 days before I came out here on this trip that he said, and I don't get those episodes anymore. In fact, I can't remember the last time I had one. Now, who's to say that fruits and vegetables and the way they're put into these capsules that was done with so much thought and research is actually helping to cure or at least alleviate some of the symptoms that my father's had for 40 years. I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but all I can tell you is he is the most skeptical man in the world, and he believes that he's being helped by this. And he won't go a day without his fiber and spice. My mother also, they are telling their whole family about it. Well, that's just what Balance of Nature is. But the other thing I wanted to bring up is the fact that this is the first time I've visited the actual company where the product is manufactured, where all of the business planning around it happens. And this company and the team of people that work together, and I call them a team because that's what they call each other. They don't call each other employees or coworkers. They call each other teammates. I call them, just looking from the outside in, a family, because they treat each other with the kind of love and respect that you see in their individual families. It's really remarkable. And so not only is this an amazing product on its own, but you can rest assured that the ethics, the love, the passion for customers and people feeling better and living better lives goes into every single aspect of these little capsules and this Fiber & Size in getting to you. It is done with you in mind. They are the most unselfish people working in a company I've ever seen. It's just something so unusual that I really felt like I wanted to bring it up. So I feel so blessed to not only know this family now, and now many of you, and to take this product, but to know that there is really a company in the world that takes your interests, your best interests in mind and to heart. They have a thing when you walk into Balance of Nature, there's all these plaques with different, sort of their code of ethics, so to speak, or their mission statement. Core values, thank you. Core, no pun intended. And I took a picture of them today because I thought these are so good. I just want to apply these for the rest of my life, into my life. And that is how this product is being made with those core values. So anyway, I am so grateful to be here. I want to thank the Howards, Dr. Howard, and also Lex and Susan. They are more than co-workers and radio partners. They have become really my dearest friends, and I'm just so grateful to them. And so many people in the company, Daryl Farnsworth and Tommy Cummings and Nate Hadley, and of course, just their entire families also. I am just so grateful to be here tonight. Now, there's a video you're gonna watch, and it's Dr. Howard doing what he does best, and that's presenting his research, his science, his knowledge, and all his years that have gone into making Balance of Nature what it is. And we're gonna look at that video, and then we're gonna speak with Dr. Douglas. You're gonna hear from Dr. Douglas Howard. Thank you.
Are we in control of our life, or is our life in control of us? Are we in cause, or are we in effect? We teach something called the Triad of Health. This is something 20 years ago, after 5 years of practice, 10 years of practice, I finally started putting it together and going, this is what it takes. And it's the health triad. There's an aspect of health that's a physical side of health. How we feel, how we move. You've all heard be physically fit. The physical side, this is what you do and how your body functions. All the way down to the cellular level, this side of the triad, meaning triangle, includes consistent physical activity and proper function of your physical body. And then there's a spiritual side. We can call it spiritual. We can call it mental. We can call it emotional. Spiritual means us as a being. Mental, emotional, spiritual. Usually you'll see those separated out. I do not separate them out because through years of practice I found it's all incorporated into one. The spiritual side, this encompasses spiritual, mental, and emotional health. This side of the triad includes what you think, how you think, your relationships, and your attitude. We believe complete health cannot dismiss your relationship with God and daily personal meditation. And then you've got a chemical side. Frequently I'll get chemical, oh, that's a nasty word nowadays. You know, you don't want any chemistry in your food, right? If there was no chemistry in your fruits or vegetables, it would look like nothing. Everything's chemistry. Your body runs on chemistry. Every single cell, it's positive poles and negative poles. Fluids are pumped into the cell or out of the cell, and there's a pump that pushes that to make it happen, and that pump, it transfers positive and negative energy. Every cell in your body becomes like a little battery. Imagine that. You're made up of trillions of little teeny batteries. It's how they work. And that's chemical. On the chemical side, this involves every function of your body. This side of the triad includes what you eat, what you drink, what you breathe, absorb, or consume in any way. And your body is a fantastic chemical laboratory. The substances you choose to expose it to affect its intricate functions and processes. It takes all three of these sides to have health. This right here is absolutely vital to anything we talk about. If we don't have this, we don't have anything. Commit this to memory, commit this to life.
There's someone who's been around New York City radio stations for the last 7 years and all over the country, Dr. Douglas Howard.
Got it? Well, welcome everybody. They made this little film because usually it takes me about 60 minutes to cover that 3 minutes, so you're lucky. I have a passion for the triad. Let's see if I can get my computer up. Okay. I don't know what I'm looking at here. You got this? Is that what you want me to do? All right. I have a passion for this triad. It is where, you want to turn that down a little bit? It is where we really, truly started to learn what health is. And it's very important. For example, to really understand it, oh, there we go. Everybody wait. To really understand it, I can take you one little example, and then I'll get off of this. But they are intricately involved. You have to have every aspect of this. Now, anybody here ever remember when you were young? Most of you heard this story, that's all right, play along with me. When you were young and there was a cute boy or cute girl that you kind of that you liked at school. Anybody remember that? Nobody remembers that. By raise a hand, anybody remember that? Okay. So if you're walking down the hall at school and all of a sudden they come around the corner and you're right there face to face with them, what happened to your stomach? You got the butterflies, you know? Was there really butterflies in there? No. But you felt something, didn't you? Did it take them touching you to feel that? No. So what happened was you had an emotional thought. Something was generated through chemistry. It was generated, by the way. And that created another chemistry that then went through and it changed chemicals in your body, hormones and other things, and thoughts, and that's all chemistry, and then you felt something. Does that make sense? Every aspect of your health is this same basis. You have to address every side of this, and we will talk about that tonight, because if you don't, you cannot have complete health. It's just, you will not have full health. Okay. So, I talked about something in there. Are you cause or are you effect? This thing's going to drive me nuts. I'd rather almost take it off and just, I can holler this loud. Okay. Okay. I like this way. Okay. So are you cause or are you effect? And let me explain that. In chemistry, you learn that everything has a starting point. I mean, in physics, everything has a starting point. And so in your life, are you the one that's being influenced or are you influencing? Does that make sense? So think about it. Think about today, just today alone. Have you been in cause of your day or have you been effect? I've been a lot of effect today, I'll tell you right now. Go here, Dr. Howard. Go there, Dr. Howard. No. But in general, it's the same way in your body. In fact, not in general. It's absolutely the same way in your body. You are cause of your health. Now, there's certain things that'll happen. There's some genetic factors, and there's some things that we may not be able to control. But generally and mostly, we are cause of our health. And so, I don't know, it doesn't show so well on here, but this is supposed to be gold. And gold is a whole bunch heavier than these rocks. And that's what it really is like. Being cause in your life is like having gold in your life. It's the most effective part. So, this right here will help you understand this a little bit. Lights. I don't care about these lights. It's good. Go ahead and cut it.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
Hear me all? Is this even on? I can turn it off and talk loud. I don't want to yell through this. Through the years, I realized how much of this truly can be helped. Popping a pill for every little thing is not the answer. We have more control of our health than what we would like to admit. Which one's in cause and which one's in effect? Left. See, I'm dyslexic, so I have to look which is left and right. So here is being in cause. Now, does that mean that we can prevent this altogether in our whole life? Not really. But what it does mean, something I love, that we have to concentrate on, in this area here, you've heard this a lot. I want to die with my, one more time. I want to die with my boots on. Who here? We've all heard this, right? I mean, I knew I would hear because we're in cowboy country, right? So it's something that I call morbidity. I hate this thing. For a second, I'm going to set it down. It's something that I call morbidity compression. Dr. Howard, no one online can hear you. Okay. Something we call morbidity compression. What is morbidity compression? I really have my whole career tried to stay away from big words, but morbidity is just simply illness. Okay? That's how much illness we have in our life. So dying with your boots on, and the other way, what's the ultimate way to go? Dying in your sleep. That's always the number one answer, okay? We're all going to die. Anybody here didn't know that before tonight? Because we're all going to die. It's how we're going to go. And we have control of that factor. But the greatest compression of that is to go in the smallest amount of time. You know, do we want to be vital and going and doing and enjoying for as long as we possibly can? Who here, by show of hands, anybody here who would rather linger in a bed for 15 years and not be able to get up? Okay, it's just because we had a different doctor to take care of those if you're our. So this is what this is about. Nobody on this earth can guarantee you quantity of life. But you are in control of your quality of life, and that's what we're here tonight to talk about. Now, by raise of hands, who here would like to improve your quality of life? Keep them up, because I need to know if there's not anybody. Okay. No, that we want to improve quality of life. That's what we're going to do tonight, and I hope tonight Well, my goal is tonight that you will all walk away with a knowledge of how you can do that. Okay. By the way, can anybody really read that? I write, but I know nobody can read it, so it's for me. So how do we do that? Another thing is that you guys were told you would have here is you'd be told how to not get as sick through the holidays. Did any of you realize that's what we were going to talk about a little? Okay. So I want a list. In fact, anybody here who can write better than me? We'll pick on the pregnant lady. Are you pregnant? over there on that side. It's my daughter. I knew she was. I was safe. Either that or a liver disease, and I knew it wasn't, so we're good. So by raise of hand, or not by raise of hands, raise your hand and I'll call on you, but what were some of the reasons, what would you like to get out of tonight? Anybody here have any idea? Yes. Okay. Yep. Flu shots and pneumonia shots. She has some questions about. I'll see if we can get to that. I probably will be able to tonight. Yes.
To make sure that people really believed what you're saying. Out of the last 9 months, I've spent 2 weeks every month in the hospital and pronounced dead 3 times. And I did not have balance of nature until my last jaunt in the hospital. And I told them, I said, you will not see me again. I'm not coming back because I'm going home and I'm going to take what's going to make me well, not the garbage you've been giving me to make me sicker. And here I am.
Thank you. And I hope we get those questions answered. And if we don't get them all answered tonight, you have a health coach. And they will help you get through that. And if they can't answer it, eventually they can get to me somewhere in the world. Really. If there's an emergency, they can always. So how can balance of nature help me? Is that an answer? Don't get those shots. Yeah. Anybody? Yes. Okay. Yes, she hasn't heard of the product before tonight, and she was looking at it. She'd like more information on the micro elements of it. What, the magnesium and all of the small elements. We'll talk about that. Definitely, yes. I love that one. Okay, yes. Anybody else? Yes. Okay. Arthritis, and I'll talk a bit about what, how, and why, and we'll have some examples of both directions, how that works. Yes. Weight loss, okay? Yes. Shingles vaccine, shot. Diabetes, I love that one. Way up here. Neuropathy. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put as many of these together as we can by the end. I don't know what that was, but let's see. Did I see a hand somewhere? Yes. Oh, great. How is it manufactured? Okay. Way up here. Hormonal imbalance. No, again? Hot flashes. Good. Did I see one over here? Mini strokes. Okay. Way up here. I can barely see because of the light. I'm not ignoring you.
There are so many supplements on the market today. I can't afford them all. How do I know that this is the best one?
Oh, I love all these questions. This is a great one. Okay. Yes, we'll talk about that. Yes. Okay, so degenerative joint disease, DJD. Yes. Cancer. How could it help with cancer? We definitely going to talk about it. That's part of my presentation tonight. Balance of nature for kids. Obviously, we aren't going to get through all of these, but keep coming because this is how I develop my next lecture. So, what's it? Crohn's disease. C-H. No. No. C-R-O-H-N-E. I could never spell, so don't worry about it. Oh, enzymes. Here's one. I'll let him answer this one partly, but I have it's my passion, so. One here and then down here, yes. Oh, renal failure. Is it safe? Safety with renal failure. Yes. Okay, that's going to be covered on, so do I need to take all the other supplements? Hearing. What? oldest joke in the world. Yes. I love skeptics. Yes, okay. I hope so. I will tell you this, because we get this all the time across the nation. I won't say all the time, just every day. But of somebody either writing, if you ever saw something on our internet site or something that said, oh, they have horrible actors and actresses. They need to get better actors and actresses. I'm like, you can't get better than the original. Everything you hear is an actual conversation that somebody has had with their health coach when they call in. They're not scripted. They're not asked. They're unsolicited. And so everything you hear on the radio is real. It's actual. There's nothing else there. We get blamed for faking those a lot. There was a company once who thought they were going to try and make a cheaper product and push it through, and they actually took our commercials and scripted them and had people actually use our success stories in their commercials. It didn't run very long. It didn't work for them. Okay, yes? Okay, make sure. Okay, how are we going to break down neuropathy? Oh, write down. We not get it? Diabetes and neuropathy here. Okay, and organic. I can go through that. We'll talk about manufacturing. I'll tell you right up front, it's better than organic. Now, chew on that one for a minute. Okay, yeah. What's that? Gum disease. Oh, great one. Gum disease. Right here. I wish I knew that, but I'll talk about it. I have my opinions, but that's about all I got. Thyroid disease. We could talk. What's that? Okay, so I'm being told to move on. I'll take one more, and then I'm going to move on. Kidney stones. And cardiac. We are going to talk about, let's see, I don't know. Yeah, okay, cardiac. I don't know if that was, we're not going to fit all of this in tonight. I really want to know what was on your mind, and I will get as many of these as I can. Sometimes I will promise to stay after for anybody who wants to stay, because I only have 10 minutes more to talk. But I will stay and answer questions long after everybody needs to go home. This is tight quarters, so it's tough to, I don't want to lock you in here past time. Okay, so who here needs to make a change? Okay? Because you know what the definition of insanity is? Repeating the same thing over and over and expecting a different result. That's insane, right? And so if we're not getting where we want to be, then we need to do that. And another thing we need to talk about is what is a result? We are a results-based company. That's what we look for. That's why we're here. And that's what we strive for, always. I could not have done this if I didn't know I was getting a result. I didn't set out to make a company like this. It was the furthest thing from my mind. In fact, it was very, very difficult for me when it came time to separate more from my practices and more into research and lecturing. I loved being in practice. In fact, some people here actually, I think, knew me in practice. Yeah, and not seeing them, but they're here. It was one of my, I loved it. It was almost a depression I went through to break away from that. But what happened was I started researching. I studied throughout the world. I was the Dean of Foreign Student Affairs at Pavlov Medical University. Does the name Pavlov mean anything to anybody? Ring a bell. Did you just salivate? No. I was in those rooms. No. I was the Dean of Foreign Student Affairs at the Pavlov Medical University. And so I started truly expanding the way I thought and what I thought. I worked in clinics and hospitals in Finland and Mexico and the Caribbean countries, and I wanted to know more than what we just had here. And so that thirst for knowledge was so important because I wanted to know why things happen. So anyways, we have to make a change. If you're not ready to make a change, then I probably can't help you. And really, I don't know what can. Okay, I forget I have this clicker. I'm waiting for somebody to do that. Okay, we talked about cause versus effect, but another aspect that we can call this is prevention versus cure. Now, there's an old saying about prevention. What is it? That's right. An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. I'd like to say a gallon of prevention is worth a 50-gallon drum of cure, because it's the weight. It's so important. It's so dense. It can be a smaller thing that you're using to get rid of a whole bunch bigger stuff, and that's very, very important. So when I first started Balance of Nature, I won't go into the details of where I was and how that all happened. You've probably heard that before anyways, but there were 5 aspects that I started looking at. When I came back from Russia and I started my practice, I decided to do geriatrics. My patients were 50 and over because I could find nobody in America at that time, this is over 20 years ago, that was concentrated on holistic health care for seniors, for geriatric care. It was, you had it for pediatrics, you had it for sports, you had it for everything else, but nothing for geriatric care, because Medicare won't allow medical doctors to, number one. You are not allowed to. And so that's where I started concentrating my efforts. So when I started, who here can tell me how many servings of fruits and vegetables a day should a person eat to remain just baseline, to remain healthy? What's that? I heard one over here. 8 to 11. 8 to 11. I heard 3 to 4. I heard 1 or 2. I heard 8 to 11. 9 to 11 is what they're now teaching. Do you remember the old, 5 a day slogan? Do you know why they did a 5 a day slogan? And I was in the healthcare field and pushing it too. So why we said 5 a day? Yeah, that could have been it. That wasn't mine, but yeah, he said to keep people in poor health, maybe. But it's because 9 to 11 was so unrealistic to people, they just couldn't even imagine it. So we thought, well, if we can just get them to do 5, at least we can keep them alive and in poor health that we can treat them. But think about this. I want everybody here, except for taking Balance of Nature, if you're already taking our product, that doesn't count in this question. Think back through the last, just let's go 3 days back. What is today? I don't even know. Let's go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So let's go Sunday. Sunday. Can you remember back that far? What did you eat on Sunday? Just think it through. Just think it through. How many servings of fruits and vegetables? A serving is the size of your fist. Okay? Serving is the size of your fist. Iceberg lettuce doesn't count. Romaine barely counts now. Lettuces are difficult. If it's kale or spinach, that all counts. But it's still got to be the size of your fist. That spinach and kale's got to be smashed in there, dense, the size of your fist. So, that was Sunday. Monday, how many servings of fruits and vegetables have you eaten? Count how many servings. And today, how many servings of fruits and vegetables have you had? Now, divide that by 3. By raise of hands, who here had, let's say, who here had at least an average of 3 servings of fruits and vegetables a day? Raise your hands high if you had an average of 3. Okay, way high. Okay, who here had an average of 5? Okay, good. Who here had an average of 9? Not counting balance of nature. Okay, we've still got one. That's awesome. That's great. Who here had 11? Okay, guess what? 9 to 11 was just to maintain health. Studies show 11 to 15 servings. That's just unreal, isn't it? Who here thinks you can eat 15 servings of vegetables a day? Or fruits and vegetables? It's difficult. It's very, very difficult. And so that's what it takes, and that's what I started learning, that we needed that concentration of whole nutrition. Let me define whole nutrition. Can you get whole nutrition in a multivitamin? No. Okay, by who here, how many naturally occurring chemicals, do I have an apple paper here? Do we have an apple paper? Can we pull it up even? Can we pull it up? That'd be faster. See if you can pull it up. How many naturally occurring chemicals do you think there are in an apple? Now, if you already know the answer to this, don't scream it out. But I do this survey with groups of doctors, professors, all kinds of people. Okay, so don't go anywhere yet. Okay, how many servings of, how many chemicals do you think there are in just an apple? This is not to say the apple is the best one, by the way. We could do this with oranges. I could show you this with every single fruit or vegetable in Balance of Nature. But give me any guesses. How many chemicals are in an apple? What's that? That's a lot. Any other guesses? 25. What's that? 1,000. That's any more? What's that? 10,000. The guy up here was actually closer than any of us. There's not. We haven't found billions. I won't. But there are tens of thousands of chemicals just in an apple. And the interesting thing is, go up to caffeic acid. Can you just scroll through? This is just a list of some of these chemicals in an apple. Just go up to caffeic acid. I'll use it as an example. There, right there. Okay, caffeic acid. It's just a nice little chemical in there. And if you look at it, you know, it's anti-aggregant. An anti-aggregant is what a lot of people take pills for, so that your blood cells won't stick together. They won't aggregate. They won't come together and make a clot when they shouldn't. That's too high for me. Bring it down. It's antibacterial. It's anti-cancer. It's anti-carcinogenic. You know, carcinogen is something that causes cancer. So not only does this fight against cancer, but it fights against the chemicals that cause cancer. Isn't this a great chemical? It's anti-flu. All of these are actual studies done on this chemical. So as we go down, let's see, it's anti-tumor, it's an antioxidant, anti-sunburn. Have you ever wondered why an apple can be at the, where do you get the best apples on an apple tree? Even in St. George? If you have a bald head and you go up there and you're sitting on top of the tree, what's going to happen? It's going to be burned. Why don't apples burn? Bell peppers do, don't they? Well, they don't have as much of caffeic acid in them as one of the chemicals. So it's anti-sunburn. Now let's go up a little bit. But as we come down through here, it's antiviral, and then we come down here and we find that it says it's a fungicide. Oh, this is a cool fact. It's a fungicide. Why would it be a fungicide? See, this is part of the apple trees. This is part of the apple's immune system. That's a really cool thought. So these chemicals are the apple's immune system. Yeah, it says sunscreen here. It's a sedative. It's a pesticide. That's what. So it's an insecticide, a pesticide, a fungicide. It kills bugs. So isn't that cool that we can eat an apple and we actually get its immune system in us? That's one of the ways it helps our immune system, is because we're using the chemistry that it uses to help our immune system. So as we go on through, okay, then on the second line down, it says cancer preventative, and the next word is carcinogenic. What did I say a carcinogen is? It causes cancer. When I first found that, I went, well, okay, well, there's so many studies. Have you ever read there's this study that says it does this, and this one that contradicts that? And I had to dig a little further. I have found it is a carcinogen. It does cause cancer if you get more than 2% in your diet. Now, come down a little bit. Lift that again. 2%. So if you were to eat, let's say, a milligram of this, I said, why don't we put this in a pill? Look at all these great things, right? But if you were to eat a pill they extract the chemical out, and then you took a milligram of it, is it going to be good for you or bad for you? It's going to be bad for you. Now it's going to cause cancer. But how can it not cause cancer? Because when it's in balance with all the other chemistry in that apple, then it actually fights cancer. So how many apples would you have to eat to get a milligram of this stuff? Well, let's see, where are we? Come down. See, there's only 1.2 parts, 85 to 1.2 parts per million in the apple. So you could never eat enough apples. It doesn't matter if you ate a milligram or 2 milligrams, because it's the percentage that counts. Am I making myself clear? Okay, because I don't want to lose you on this, but it's so important. This is the key. So somebody was asking, why would this work? How will it help? Well, I could go through hundreds and hundreds of chemicals like this. Just scroll up through them real quick so you can see just this list, and it's the tip of the iceberg. Just scroll up on them. Oh, not that one, but yeah. Oh, apple, yeah. Okay, just to give you an idea. Well, that was, oh. Anyways, you get the idea. All of these are chemicals in apple. Some of them don't even have a name yet. They're just a chemical property. So they name them by what their chemical properties are. So that's good. Is this going yet? Okay. So I wanted to know what the chemistry was, what it's doing. I started making this. Yeah, my time's up, I'm being told already. Can I go another half an hour? Everybody okay with that? Okay. So my original goal was to figure out, I started trying to get patients to eat better. Well, do you know how much that worked? Not much. So I started doing diets with them, and you know what the first 3 letters of diet is? Die. Yeah, nobody wanted that. And then I started having them count. We started doing diaries and seeing how many fruits and vegetables they were getting, and when they were on Meals on Wheels, and I'm not knocking the service, it's just a fact. They were on Meals on Wheels, and you know how many fruits and vegetables they were getting in a week? Oh, I blew it. They were getting 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a week, because mashed potatoes don't count, and iceberg lettuce doesn't count, and yeah, you can count a potato sometimes if you eat the skin, but otherwise it doesn't count. So I started figuring out how to concentrate this, and so I started having people juice. But guess what? This is true. I started having some people come in turning orange because they were just drinking carrot and apple juice. It's like, no, you can't do that either. That's called carrot anemia. It's true. That's not. And so I couldn't get them to do that. And that's when I actually started learning that juice is just an extraction anyways. I can give a diabetic a whole apple, but I can't give a diabetic a cup of apple or 2 cups of apple juice, whatever comes out of it. Does that make sense? All of the chemistry has to be there. It's not just the fiber there that's helping that. It's all that chemistry. And guess what? The fiber is made up of chemistry. It's all chemistry. So when I started developing it, finally I figured out a way to actually use a process that we could get all of this combined. And I spent a couple of years, night and day, researching each of these fruits and vegetables, and I was searching for a special chemical is what I really started doing. And then I started, in my other side of my head, I was trying to see, okay, I was trying to see what ratio of these chemicals would be good if I could make a pill. And then I realized, one day I realized, number one, if there's a magic chemical, we already know where it's at. It's in our fruits and vegetables, so I don't need to isolate it, because if I isolated it, then it starts causing problems. Every isolated chemical has a side effect. And so that's when we said, okay, and I figured out a way to maintain the fruits and vegetables so they have 99.9% of the nutritive value of all the nutrition of fresh fruits and vegetables. And we had to make some adjusting. It's freeze-drying processes, and it's adjusted freeze-drying process so we could do that. Because what makes that? Oh, shoot. Will you go to the color, taste, and smell slide for me? I love this slide. It's like one of my favorites. You'll see why. Well, that's not the slide. Okay. Because that's my granddaughter. No. Color, smell, and taste. That's what makes up that chemistry. That's what that chemistry makes. For example, have you ever thought of your vitamin as a dye? A color? That's what it is. Most of the time it's a color. Who would have thought? I remember as a young man, as a student in high school, I was so interested in science, but I remember when they came out and they outlawed red dye number 10 or something. Do you remember that? Because it was causing cancer. And at the time I had a teacher that said, well, and I love this teacher to this day, but he was wrong. He said, well, yeah, if you drink a bucket of it every day, it's going to give you cancer. And I was like, oh, okay, this is all garbage. No, our body is sensitive to those things. And colors are most of our vitamins, for example. What color is beta carotene? What color is vitamin A? Orange. Where do we see it? Right there. It's full of vitamin A and beta carotene. But if you just take the vitamin A out of that, what's it do? Causes cancer. Did you know that? Look at any of your vitamins anymore. You don't have vitamin A in your vitamins anymore. You have beta carotene because it's a precursor. But that used to be in our one-a-day vitamins. We found out it causes cancer. So then what did they do? They called it retinol, and you rub it on your skin for young kids for acne. So, but not too much, because it will destroy your skin. That's vitamin A. Okay? So I started learning these things and realizing, and then I realized I needed to do something else, and that's how I came up with Balance of Nature, so we could do that. I'm sorry I'm spending so much time on this. Let's go back to the slide. So once I developed it, and once I found, okay, this stuff works, and I started getting great responses and things in our office, then I wanted to know, how is this working? Now, somebody brought up the question of cancer, right? Here's how cancer happens. Did you know every one of us in this room, every single one of us has cancer in your body? Everybody has a cancer cell. It's just that here's how it happens. So I don't know if you'll see this or not, but if you've got a cell here, inside it is DNA. Does that make sense? DNA is the material, it's the blueprint to make new cells. And so every one of these DNA The body has to divide and make a new DNA, and they have to be identical to the one over there, or else you have a rogue cell. You have a mutated cell. And a mutated cell, the problem with if you get just the right one, then it doesn't know when to stop growing. Have you ever wondered why your liver isn't the size of your body? Isn't that strange? You know, why don't your fingers just keep growing? Because there's a blueprint, and here's the blueprint. And that blueprint says when your liver needs to stop growing. But when something mutates and it doesn't have that signal to stop growing anymore, then it just starts consuming all the other cells. Make sense? That's cancer. So, number one, you want to protect the cell. So number one is protection. This is how we prevent cancer. Protect. And you want to protect that DNA because you've got this cell and you've got that DNA going through here. And then you get a free radical that comes it's an electron that just comes shooting through here like a bullet. And it hits just right. There's one chance in trillions, but you have trillions of cells and multi-trillions of these free radicals. So it hits it just right and it breaks it. And then it can't divide properly. So you want to protect it from those free radicals. Number two, are you going to protect it 100% of the time? No, it's going to happen. Going out in the sunshine, walking across the football field, you're going to have trillions of free radicals hit you. Exercise. Every time you burn energy, then you create free radicals. But your body knows how to take care of them. So anyways, number two, when one breaks, you want to be able to, you want to repair the DNA. Okay? Then you want to be able to repair that DNA. The body's so cool. I wish I had time to go through it. But there's a little messenger that runs down. You have two DNAs going on here in a cell. So you have, it's going to divide and make this new cell. And it has a little messenger that runs up one side and reads it. And then it comes on the other side and it reads it down the other side. And when it says, oops, this isn't identical to this, then it goes back, reads it, comes back, and tries to fix it. If it can't fix it, then it says, sorry, we're not supposed to divide. You're not going to divide today. This was your last cell. And that's called apoptosis. That's cellular suicide. It's supposed to do that. If it can't make a correct cell again, it stops dividing. So this is really cool. But the first thing is it wants to repair itself. So the next thing is that's not going to happen all the time either. So then it does make a mutant cell here. And this guy is going to go out and cause problems, right? So then the body needs to identify him, and your immune system, told you couldn't read it, oh well. Your immune system then has to be the one to identify it and kill it. Now, if that happens 100% of the time, you'll never get cancer, okay? It doesn't happen 100% of the time. So those three things are what we decided to look at. Go back up. Cedric, go up. I don't know where this is at. Go up to the slide that was the reasons what we were looking for. Right here. So what we were looking for with Balance in Nature had 5 goals originally. Is looking at cardiovascular disease, cancer, stroke, macular degeneration, and cataracts. By raise of hand, is anybody here concerned about any one of those 5? You should be. So, but there's things you can do about them. So this was the first study that we decided to look at. Now, go up. I don't know what I did with that thing. Here it is. Okay, this is one of the first studies we did. And this was a study on the immune system. And go to the second page. Well, no, stop here, sorry. And so what this showed was that what we did, have you ever heard that, oh, that person, somebody has yeast, and so they were told they couldn't eat any fruit. Have you ever heard that? What's that? Yeah, I had heard that too, and I didn't believe it. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do a study on this. I want to see why. So what we used was we used yeast as the attacking agent, okay? So we took blood of people that were on Balance of Nature and weren't on Balance of Nature. And this one was actually in more of a petri dish. Anyways, it doesn't matter. We took blood and we used yeast as that factor so that we could see if yeast really was a problem for fruits. So then when we had fruits in the system, the body would kill the yeast 515% faster. 5 times faster. And when it was the vegetables in the blood, it would kill it over 700%, or 7 times faster. Yes? Yes, I'm sorry. When Balance of Nature fruits and Balance of Nature vegetables were consumed and in your system and in your blood serum and in your body, then that's what it did for the immune, that's what it does for the immune system. Here's the beauty. When they're combined, remember we talked about all this chemistry? When it's combined, it goes up over 800%, 830-something percent, that it actually kills those. This is called, it's called peripheral, I don't want to get into it. Anyways, it's called phagocytosis. And it's where, you ever seen Pac-Man? Anybody remember Pac-Man? Okay, good. So Pac-Man's, you know, going like this, clunk, 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 going through, and it's eating up those dots. Well, that's what your white blood cells do, certain ones of them. And so it just bumps into it and just circles it and takes it in and eats it, consumes it, and kills it. And it can do over 8 times as many of those in the same amount of time when Balance of Nature's in your blood. Is there any wonder why people get less colds and things like that? This is one of the reasons. But it also helps here. Scroll down. Let's see. Well, I won't go through all this. I'll just explain. The next study we did was then on DNA repair. No, excuse me, back up. The next one was on protection. It mentions it here. I don't know where it is. This is preliminary report, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, we found the results. It protects the cell significantly. There's no number we could put on it. But this was all done with electron microscopes, and it's called a COMET assay study, and it's really cool. And I'd love to get into more details, but I can't. But it's a really cool, sophisticated study of how we knew if the DNA was being damaged or not. But then, so it protects it significantly. And then this one I didn't go over yet. The next study we did then was, if the DNA is damaged, how quick can it repair? Over 1,300% faster, over 13 times more likely that DNA will repair. So if we can protect it significantly, we have less of them breaking in the first place. And then we can repair it over 13 times faster. And then if one does get out there, we can kill it more than 8 times likely. Can you see how that could decrease your risk of cancer? I'm not saying it's a cure. I'm not saying nobody will get cancer. In fact, I have some very, very dear friends that have died of pancreatic cancer while taking Balance of Nature. But it was so far progressed for 20 years before they ever started taking it that it's like a fire. Can you go to that one? It's all right. I've been jumping on him, so that's why I'm not using my clicker. They're all over the place. Someday they're going to contain me, and I'm going to just follow this right through for them. When I die, that's what they're going to do with it. Okay, turn off the lights for me. These I don't care about, just those. Okay. So, before you start it, which is easier to put out? A spark or a fire? A spark. That's a silly question, isn't it? But, let's see how this, and so, I'm going to talk as this moves forward. Go ahead and start it. So, as we're starting a spark, you know, I don't know if any of you have been out camping or anything, but those sparks come off and they get in that dry timber. And so a spark starts, and as long as it remains controlled, go ahead and stop for a second. So as long as it remains controlled, we're okay. But that spark gets in there first and makes that. And that's this mutated cell. Okay, keep going. As long as the body can contain it and it can't keep progressing, we're okay. Eventually we'll get out. In fact, as scouts, we put it out real easy. Somebody got it. But then, as that fire lights up and it starts spreading more sparks, okay, stop it. One of those sparks goes out and it finds an area that's not healthy. Now, if that spark lands over in the green grass, are you going to worry about running over and rushing over and stomping it out? No, it's healthy grass. It's landed in a healthy spot. But if it lands in unhealthy cells, then we have another problem. Yeah, in Utah right now. If it lands in unhealthy cells, then we got a problem. Go ahead, start it. And that then can go out and spread more. And if that lands on your roof, or it lands somewhere else in your grass in your yard, you might be able to just grab a hose and run over and spray that out, put that out, right? But if it lands on your roof, then you got much, much more problem. Now you're going to have to call the fire department out. And if you need more help. And so your immune system could still handle it. But if you live next to the forest, now it's not just unhealthy tissue. Now it's the healthy trees are going. Now you're bringing in chemicals and dropping them on it. And you're bringing in bulldozers and cutting fire lines, okay? That's kind of like drugs and surgery. What would happen, go ahead and stop it, what would happen if we had that little campfire and that they made a law, I wouldn't put it past our government really, to make a law that you have to put out a campfire with a bulldozer every time, because they proved that a bulldozer putting it out, your chances of it ever spreading through the rest of the forest is much less likely. Are we going to help the forest or hurt the forest? You're going to damage it. And we don't want damage. You have to choose it rightly. What if every time you had a house fire, they brought in big old airplanes like that and dumped chemicals all over? How many other houses is it going to destroy? And that's sometimes what we do with drugs. So you have to watch it. You have to know that you want to put out the sparks, and you have to pay attention to it. Keep going. I think this is over, actually. I am. Okay. So that being said, somebody asked about cancer. Does that answer your question of why something so simple as this could influence something as beastly as cancer? Does that make sense? In fact, every one of my health coaches here should be able to answer this before I get too many of the words out. Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. It just took me years to go through all of this sophisticated chemistry to get back to the most simple aspect. That some intelligence greater than me knew how to turn something into all this chemistry, that it would taste good and I'd enjoy it, and that it would only have positive side effects. And that's how it works. So, okay, next. So the next study that we started working on, I'll go to this one, it's about cancer also. So then we decided, well, what is this? So then we took rats. I'm sorry, this is an animal study. If anybody is offended, please sign up and back and we'll shoot you with cancer and see how well it works. Okay. I had to have proof in some way to show what I was doing. And so we did sacrifice some rats. And in this study, next, then we went through and he started, it was very exciting. I mean, it was done over at Pavlov at the university, and I had moved back here by then. But they were doing a study, and about within 8 to 10 days, it'll tell you exactly up here, but all of the rats, here's what we did. We actually engrafted, we actually injected tumors. It's called a Plis lymphoma, which is very, very aggressive cancer. And it's a cancer that 99.999% will be engrafted. Once in a while, for some reason, maybe it won't. Who knows whether it was the engraftment or what. But basically, every rat that we gave it to, they got the tumor, okay? And then what we did was they started telling me they'd gotten about 3 or 4 days past the other rats. You can start seeing the tumor grow. And, you know, it was usually back on the hip or something, but then you could see where it was growing. I actually got letters back from him saying, this is remarkable. It's appearing like they're not even getting the cancer. Well, within about 3 days, then we knew they were. Only 70% of them even got the cancer. 30% that were on balance of nature. So the control group didn't have any balance of nature, and the other group had balance of nature. And it was a comparative value of how much a human would take. So 30% didn't even get the cancer. So boom, we had done our job right here. Now those that did get it, the green line, no, excuse me, the blue line is the line of how long they lived. And those are the ones that didn't get balance of nature. And as it goes up is the size of the tumor. And within 24 days, I think it was, I'd have to look exactly, yeah, engraftability was down to 70%. Within 24 days, all of those animals had died of the effects of the cancer. These, most of them never did die. They were sacrificed eventually so we could do surgery on them and autopsies and see what was going on. But the tumors never got any larger than what you're seeing there. What was very interesting, remember that triangle that we were talking about? You have social aspects and chemical aspects and physical aspects. Lex was with me. He was a young man. I think it made quite an impression on him, actually. We went and we were checking the studies out, and he said, you've got to see, this is the most peculiar thing. They used really interesting words. And
it wasn't me saying this.
no, not him. He's peculiar too, but no, the professor over there, he said, Andre, he said, you've got to see this. And he showed us these animals. And those who were engrafted and got the tumor that were not on balance of nature, he said they will just go in the corner and find a corner, and they become antisocial, and they have nothing to do with anybody else until they die. And he said those on balance of nature just intermingle among, and you couldn't even tell them apart except they have an added appendage. That was his word, an added appendage, meaning the tumor that would grow on them. But they were still feeding their young. They were still socially active among all the rats. It was very, very interesting. And so even though they were sick, they didn't feel the effects as much. Remember what we talked about, dying with your boots on? That's what that was. That's what it was. It was compressing their sickness into as small of a period as possible. So keep going. So in this, I'll just quickly, his comments at the end were rather amazing. You've done studies before, Doc, JR, wouldn't you love somebody if your study came back and it said, I'll have to look for parallels, but so far I can only compare the anti-carcinogenic effects. So what's anti-carcinogenic? Cancer-fighting effects of balance of nature with factors as powerful as hypophysectomy and adrenalectomy. Now, that's cutting out your pituitary gland and your adrenal glands. How long are you going to live without that? Not long. That's what he says here. He says, on the other hand, the latter, meaning the hypophysectomy and adrenalectomy, can only be used in experiment because you die anyways. What that does is that stops certain hormones because tumors like hormones usually. So it slows their growth down, but you die of the surgery. Let's see. Can only be used in experiment, while balance of nature is quite physiologic. I will soon have the results of biochemical results, including the measurements of the hormone levels and the immunological ones. Besides, I hope to use morphologic data soon. I will send the macro and micro photographs then. However, the results I am sending are promising enough themselves. You think we were ecstatic? We were. The bummer is, I can't go print this in the newspaper because the FDA won't let me. I can use it in a lecture. I'm cool. And if they're here, anybody's FDA, I'm good. But I can't print this because it's not double-blind placebo and on and on. But this was enough for me to go forward and know what it's doing. Next slide. So, back one, sorry. I jumped you up one. No, you're right. Right there. So then he sent me these pictures. That's what he said he was going to send me. So first he said, in the controls without balance of nature, the lymphoma or the tumor was growing very aggressively, infiltrating the skin, the muscles, and even invading the nerves. How aggressive a cancer does it take to invade the over Schwann cells in the nerves, JR? It's very, very aggressive. And so, and what these pictures show, those top 3 pictures, are these are actual pictures of the tumor. And inside the tumor, it has skin cells. Because remember that spark? That amber, when it flew and it landed on the skin, it just sucked it into the tumor. And when it landed on the muscle, those are muscle cells in there. Those are muscle strands. Then it just incorporated the muscle right into the tumor. And then when it hit the nerves, it incorporated and went through the sheath into the nerve bundle. Very, very aggressive. He said, on the other hand, those feeding on balance of nature did not demonstrate anything of the sort. In their case, the lymphoma was growing compactly, not invading the neighboring tissues, but rather pushing them away. So this is a picture of the tumor. It has no skin, no muscle, no nerve. It was only on what it could make itself. So it wasn't spreading. That was exciting. So then I went back and I said, okay, I had a theory. I said, I've got a theory that the capsule around the tumor is different between the two. I was wrong. That's not what it was. It was much better. It was much better. He sent us back and they did some further studies, and what they showed was it wasn't that the capsule wasn't trying to consume it, but the healthy tissue was rejecting the force of the capsule. Really cool. So keep going. Have I put anybody besides JR to sleep here? Okay. Keep going. So, any questions about what I've talked about? Yes?
So, to go back to my question, so how many servings of fruit and vegetables are in 3 capsules of fruit, 3 capsules of vegetables?
Okay, he asked how many servings are in 3 capsules of fruit and 3 capsules of the vegetables. And how do you get them in there? Okay, I am going to answer that question at the end. I want to answer it. Believe me, I want to answer it. But I want to get into some of these science questions that they've asked here first, because that's very mechanical and not too difficult. But I'm going to answer that one tonight still. Any questions about what I talked about so far? What? I know it's done. I'm going to end it with this, and then I'm going to answer questions. What's that? Yes, I can't see through the light, so. They were taking the equivalency of 6 and 6 because we couldn't really get it down to the equal amount. So of like taking 6 of each. We still have that same amount, but these are all on a normal basis. So any other questions about what we talked about so far? Okay. Because where I'm going to go, I'm going to talk a little about, somebody talked about, oh, wait a minute, I'm sorry. At this point, I am going to stay here and answer questions, but I'm not going to hog tie you and keep you here. So, Lex?
Yeah. So, if anyone needs to go at this point in time, this is very normal for Dr. Howard to, I mean, he's just super full of knowledge, and he'll continue to answer questions. But we do have health coaches here, and we'll have the health coaches go out in front and answer anything really specific, but you're more than welcome to continue to stay. You're totally, here's the thing. Like, I'm in charge of the business side of the business, and the scientist gets the mic and he's gonna keep going, and that's why we all came here. But if you have any of the business side, then ask the health coaches. He hates answering any sales questions. Just letting you know.
I just don't know the answers.
So I need all the health coaches to go out to the front area.
About what? Okay. Okay, I'm going to take this over there. So anybody that needs to go, please just, I need to do this. While she's talking, I can't reach, I don't think. While she's talking, anybody that needs to go, please don't hesitate. You're not going to disrupt anybody. You can make your way out.
He was talking about the tumors. The second cancer that I ended up getting, I'd gone off of the Balanced Nature and got another cancer. And I got uterus cancer. There were 2 spots on the back of the uterus, and it came out malignant. Because of my experience with the leukemia, knowing that the Balanced Nature hasn't cured me, but I'm still alive. I found out that the average life with the cancer that I have, if it's not found within the first year, you die. I was on the Balanced Nature prior to this. It was brand new. I was taking it, traveling a lot in business, and I took my Balanced Nature and go, go, go. I ran out of it, and I came back and landed in bed. I kept on thinking I had the flu or sinus infection or something. I didn't know what was wrong. I just knew keep on taking that Balanced Nature and it'd take all the symptoms away. This is on the leukemia. When I came back and I hadn't been on the Balanced Nature, I ended up in a hospital bed. I'm sorry. They had my family come and say goodbye to me. And suffering back and forth from that, not knowing that it was the Balanced Nature keeping the cancer from not showing up, because we didn't know back then, it was brand new. I went without it, and then I ended up in the bed. So my daughter said, "Mom, please don't go. You still have kids to raise. Who's going to take care of them?" So I made up my mind I was going to fight, and I asked my family to please bring me the Balanced Nature. And I started back on the Balanced Nature. And they had I can't think of the word, a chemo that was brand new, that had just come out. It happened to fit the type of leukemia I had. So I got to where the Balanced Nature was making me feel so good that I thought, well, I'll go off of it. And then I was told, take them both. Well, I ended up finding out that that's true, because every time I'd go off of it, the leukemia came back, you know. But anyway, the second cancer I got, I had been off the Balanced Nature. I hadn't gotten a hold of my family to ask them to please help me get it, because by then I was financially destroyed with the leukemia and all the costs, and I got the uterus cancer. I told them, give me 1 month. Give me 1 month. And I went to my family and I asked them, and I lived off of that Balanced Nature. I made it into shakes, I ate it, I took it. Well, by the time I went back in, I had so many tumors that it was unbelievable. My uterus was filled. It had actually, the Balanced Nature had gathered all that cancer that was going through me from the uterus cancer, gathered it up and put it into capsules. When they took it out, they told me that everything was benign. And I recovered from that. And so I just wanted to reiterate about hopefully answering some of your questions. I do want to say that I'm on the Balanced Nature still, and I ended up going through a lot of grievous remorse because I was told that I was the longest living a few years ago. And I thought, why me? What did I do different? And then I realized it definitely was the balanced nature. The longest they have recorded living, other than me, is 7 years. I'm 16 years.
I'm going to tell you, that's my sister, but I'm going to clear up one thing. She was never charged for Balance of Nature. That's not true. No, but I'm saying she had all she wanted, and she was able to take a lot. And when they went in, the tumors, and I that's not my verbiage, that it collected it and put it into capsules, and that's not the capsules that you take, by the way. It was encapsulated it. But it was encapsulated, and yes, it does. And I don't know what all has done that. It's the whole triad and brings that all together. But the fact is, yes, she's the longest living patient on a drug called Gleevec, which is for a specific leukemia. And even her doctors, when she goes in, they'll say, we don't know, maybe that's what it is. But you know how many of those doctors, you know how many people those doctors have referred on to Balance of Nature? Big fat zero. None. How many patients have your doctors referred on to Balance of Nature? Okay, so now, but the oncologist doctors, they weren't. Yeah, I'm talking the cancer doctors. I don't get it, but and I don't have a study saying this is what happened. It's just that's what it is. I didn't know she was going to talk today, so I didn't know she was going to come today. Welcome. Okay, so I want to hit the main ones that people have the most problems with. See you, Donna. Hi, Rebecca. I know. They're going out to help. I'm just harassing them. They're used to that. So the major ones up here, I would say, are, and tell me if you don't agree with this, but stroke, or cardiovascular, let's say. Cardiovascular, blood pressure, arthritis. Let's hit those two first. How's that? That sound good? Okay. So what causes high blood pressure? Anybody know? Why do we get high blood pressure? I'm going to back up and give you a clue. Dehydration is part of it. But actually, dehydration is going to lower your blood pressure more than it's going to increase it because volume increases. So, but dehydration is a problem in rebound, yes. But do you remember, how many have heard the term hardening of the arteries? Okay. That literally is a true term. You know why we called it that was because when autopsies were done, we'd go in, or in surgery even, you'd see that the arteries were hard. Well, just a little bit about physics here for a second. You have to turn these lights off for a second and run this. Okay, so we're going to run this go ahead and hit run. So when you run this water, if it's a big tube, or if it's going through a big tube, then, oops, go back, sorry. Went too quick there. If it's a big tube, they just made this for me today, so I don't know how long to keep it. If it's a big tube, then the water comes out and there's no pressure on it. It's not even filling the full diameter, right? But when a tube gets small, then pressure goes up to the point that it's going to throw that hose all over the place. The pressure's so high. These two are on the exact same amount of water. The volume is the same running through these. The only difference is the size of the tube. So blood pressure, the body is just amazing. But if you sit down, the blood pressure actually has to pull the blood down into your legs, or else when you sit down, you'd squish all the blood up to your head. What would happen if that was Jell-O and you squished it all up? You know, everybody would get a stroke. So the body has to be able to, arteries expand and constrict. They dilate and constrict. That's very, very important. Veins have a little power for that, but arteries are very strong that way. And so when you go to stand up, who here has ever gone to stand up out of a car after driving a while and go, whoa, and have to grab something? Kind of almost black out? That's because the arteries didn't react quite quick enough. And so the blood, when you stood up, it dropped from your brain a little bit, and that's that blacking out that you're feeling. And so the arteries in your legs, for example, have to squeeze it up tight to push it up to the top. Make sense? They are very, very active. That's very important. So if you have a tube that it's coming through and it's not squeezing anymore, the body is going to protect the brain first. Of anything else in triage and medicine, we protect the brain first. That's what your body's going to do. So if it can't squeeze them, it only has one other option, and that is to make the blood pressure high enough that it doesn't matter what position you're in, it will still cover the brain. Make sense? Okay? Hardening of the arteries is the #1 cause for high blood pressure. There's some other things we could go through of some sensors not working and some things like that. But now, we could talk about volumes. Why do they tell you to go off of salt then? What's that? Because it causes you to retain water. Well, there's one other way you can make the pressure higher in that. What is it? Give it more volume. Increase the amount of fluid in there, and it's going to increase the pressure, right? So, go to the next one. Okay. So, if you keep increasing the pressure, if it keeps going up, go ahead, play it. If it keeps going up, and you keep increasing the pressure, if this is a vessel in your brain, then eventually you got a problem, okay? That was torturous, my wife told me. I can't use that one anymore. But that's what happens, is if it goes up, eventually it will pop. So the body is in this constant dynamic of changing it. So elasticity is very, very important. One thing that we know through studies that Balance of Nature does is it restores elasticity. So besides in your vessels, where else do we want to be elastic? What happens if your skin loses elasticity? Wrinkles. Who here likes wrinkles? I like mine. They're kind of, my wife says they're cute. No. So anytime we start losing elasticity, then we start having other problems. When you lose elasticity in the joints, they actually have to stiffen up so that they won't, because they've got to stay tight. If we lose the elasticity and they're long, then we're going to be like this. That's not, and so they tighten up, and that causes inflammation. So have you ever watched, how many here has ever seen a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old bounce across the room, and after a while you go, man, I wish I could move like that again. Okay? Well, I've always said this with my patients. If I can keep them moving, I can keep them alive. And the amount of motion that you have, now we're talking the physical side of the triangle, right? But the amount of motion we can keep going, it's going to keep the motion in the cells. It's going to keep the motion in everything. The more mobile I can keep somebody, then the higher quality of life they're going to have. And if a person gets less and less mobile and they get stiffer and stiffer until they lay down in a box, they are a stiff. Okay? And so you want to remain mobile as much as possible. So, but mobility is difficult if it starts to inflame, isn't it? So there's certain chemistry. I could go through a pineapple, for example. If any of you have heard, and this is no secret, it's not a trade secret, it is a little bit of how we get it in there and how we keep it there. Somebody asked about enzymes. Well, enzymes are something that help things to, what's a good word? How a good explanation is I'm lacking, what's that? No, they don't break down. Well, they do that too, but they speed up the process of something, okay? They help the process occur. So, what's that? Yeah, they accelerate the process. That's the word I was looking for. So if it's breaking down food, they accelerate that process. If it's breaking down fats, so there's other things, but bromelain is an enzyme found in pineapple. And so we thought, great. Now, just like everything else, if you just take bromelain, there's negative side effects, okay? Because you can't single out a chemical and not have side effects. So one of the things, for example, in bromelain, my wife, I should let her tell the story. You're probably tired of hearing me talk. But I learned that I wasn't getting the results I wanted in some of the studies. And then I went, well, what's going on here? So then we called them back. I had my wife call them and said, are you making sure that the core is in the pineapple? And they said, oh, no, that's not what she said. She said, is the core in the pineapple? That's what she said. She called up and said, she called our manufacturer and said, is the core in the pineapple? Oh, no, we just give you the best parts. We take the core out. We just give you get the prime stuff. And I said, I have to have the core. The core is where the bromelain mostly sits. And I have to have the core in order to get the results that I need. Those are some of the studies and things that we went through to get what we have. And then she said, believe it or not, we had to pay 3 times as much to get it with the core than without the core, because nobody orders it that way but us. We're the only people that order that way. So it became a nightmare having to order it. But that flexibility, that elasticity is very, very important. Also with elasticity, I can go to cardiovascular here on the heart, for example. JR, how long after somebody has had a heart attack can you see that on somebody's EKG? It's a trick question. No. Yeah, but on an EKG, if somebody's had a massive MI and you do an EKG a year later because of the scar tissue on the heart, and yeah, you'll see it in the process within 12 to 24 hours. You're right. But you can always see the effects of an EKG afterwards because of scar tissue on the heart. So frequently, somebody will come in and you'll do an EKG and you don't even have to ask them. You can go in and say, when did you have your MI? Because there's an electrical flow that causes that heart to beat. It's really cool. And as the heart squeezes down, it has to go in a pattern, and that electrical flow goes around it. And this bundle of nerves that come around there has to be in line. And if they have to go around scar tissue instead of muscle tissue, then it changes the direction of that squeeze a little bit, and you can see it on there. So one of the studies that we did was to see if we could make a difference with that. And we actually have patients, and we did a study on it that can show that not 100% of the time, but frequently, you will not see the effects of the MI on there anymore. Right here in this valley, there was a major one that happened with, so I'm not going to go into the details of it because it was an actual patient. But major effects, and that was done, and I have all those studies from University of Utah and here at St. George, because it was a young person who had a heart attack from a latex allergy. And within less than 18 months, all of the function of her heart was restored. Now she went on a large dose of Balance of Nature. It wasn't 3 and 3. She was taking, I think it was 9 and 9 or 12 and 12, and this is many years ago. But her complete function was restored. And that's because it softens the scar tissue. And when scar tissue softens, then new tissue can come in and do what it needs to do. Scar tissue is like, have you ever used a Chinese handcuff? Okay? And they're made out of bamboo, right? But they stretch. Is bamboo stretchy? Is it the bamboo fiber itself, does it stretch? No, it's how the pattern is laid out, right? And so when you stretch it, it goes like this, and that's how you move it. Well, scar tissue, elastic tissue is very much the same. It's how it's laid out. And so when you do this, but when you tear elastic tissue, then it's like this, still attached, but it's torn now. Then scar tissue is like glue, and it goes in between those points, and it glues it together so that it won't come apart. So what happened to the elasticity? Yeah. And now, every time you go to use it, or you go to the point of using that, then there's little nerves that actually bump into that scar tissue now, and now they inflame. And so you get these inflamed spots from scar tissue points. What happens is with Balance of Nature, it literally softens the scar tissue so it starts to realign with the other tissue, and then it actually starts to shrink back. When I first learned of this, I don't know. I haven't done this in a long time, but I'll tell it. In fact, it was my sister. She had a big scar on the back of her hand. And one day she started saying, well, no, I'll back up. There was actually an orthopedist that came into my office. He was working with me in Salt Lake. We worked in the same office. And when I started developing this, he got really excited about it, and he took it home to his wife, and she was taking it. And one day he said, Dr. Howard, you won't believe what's happening on my wife's leg. She's got a scar that's disappearing. I was like, yeah, Doc, I know you're really excited about this, but it's not going to disappear scars, you know. And because he had already told me his hair was growing back in, and he was bald, and, you know, he was excited. And so finally, one day, I really wasn't paying enough attention about it, that he brought his wife into, they lived up by Ognoz in Salt Lake. He brought her in, and he said, show him your scar. And she raised up her shorts, and she had a scar right here on her leg. And you could see where it was before, and the pink tissue around it. And when she was young, she was 2 years old, they had radiated a mole off of her. We wouldn't do that nowadays, but this is a long time ago. And she had this big dipping scar. And she told me that after she was on it for 6 or 8 months, she started noticing her pants were rubbing on her scar, and then she'd get a scab. And she thought, oh, it's because my pants are rubbing on the scar. She wasn't linking it with anything. But then she noticed when that scab would fall off, the scar was smaller, and it started coming in less and less, and that divot that was in there, in that scar, was completely filled in, and it had gone from about that big. You could see pink skin, you could see where it was, and it had gone down to about, about that big. And it was flat now. And so that was the first time I saw it, and then my sister, I don't know if I was telling her, and she goes, oh, I have a scar on my hand. And it was a big scar. I remember when she got it when she was a kid. From a glass that had broken on her hand, and it was a big scar on her hand. She always hit her hand, and she was weird as a girl. You know, no, I'm kidding. You know, Kim, that's not true. No, as a sister, not as a girl. No, and she said, "Look, it's going away. It's gone. I haven't looked at it in years, but we started doing pictures and stuff on people. And then one day I was with my wife, and I said, Susan, I have that scar on the back of my neck. I have a 3rd-degree burn on the back of my neck. And I said, what's that doing? What's it look like? And we didn't take pictures of it because I just never imagined this would happen. But it was a scar about the size between a nickel and a quarter. When I was a teenager, I jumped on my motorcycle. I lived up in Enterprise, and I turned. No, it was in a car. I turned to drive out of the driveway, and boom. Oh, I got this stiff neck that I could not move my neck. I was like, oh, and I went to school, and I couldn't. It was the worst stiff neck I'd ever imagined. Finally, I just left, and I went home, and I put a heating pad on it, on the chair, and on the couch, and I fell asleep with a heating pad. Worst thing, now as a doctor, don't do that. That's horrible for it. But anyways, I did that, and I fell asleep, and I had this senior key that was a little coin-looking thing, and it slipped around, and it got between me and the heating pad, and it was concentric, so all the heat was going up through that, basically. I didn't feel it, but when I woke up, I had a little itchy spot, and I scratched, and there's all this skin, man. It was just crazy. It was a 3rd-degree burn. 3rd-degree burns burn the nerve, and you don't feel it. So I had this huge, you've seen people with 3rd-degree burns from boiling water and things like that. So I had this big old scar that raised up about as high as a quarter, a nickel, and it was right there. And I didn't even wear T-shirts sometimes, because if I was like in the grocery store line, then they'd say, what is that? What is that? Like, what's that? I said, you were a weird boy. Yeah, I was a weird boy. But I just got tired of people going, what is that? And it looked kind of bigger than the smallpox scar, which, by the way, mine's gone too, but a lot of people's, those go away. But, and so I said, Susan, look at this. Where is it? And she goes, you're not going to believe this. I can't find it. And so we did studies on it, and we did it on, I hate to tell you this one because it makes people a little sadder, we did it on rabbits because their skin is most like people, but we were nice. We numbed it before we would burn their skin and things like that. But the purpose was to see how it would come back. Now I'm an evil man because it's not rats, it's rabbits, right? No, but we didn't kill any of them in that. They were all well cared for. But that was the next study we did, because scar tissue heals up. Sutures we found, we can take out sutures about 30% faster. And you can imagine less infection because the immune system's going better, and less scar in the end. So I started thinking, oh boy, you know, doctors are gonna love this. And so that's where I went and I started working with it. It didn't ever, it's too simple for a sophisticated mind sometimes. It's just too simple. It can't be this easy. It is. It's this easy. Okay. That was cardiovascular, stroke. What's that? Arthritis. So that's where I was going. Thank you. With arthritis, the reason it helps is because those enzymes, for example, are anti-inflammatory. And anything we can do to reduce that and then restore flexibility, because the arthritis continues to inflame because we lose our flexibility too. So if we restore flexibility while we reduce inflammation, then it helps. Now, I'm not going to tell everybody here it's going to cure all your arthritis. I'm not going to tell everybody here it's going to cure all your ailments. But that's why we have to talk about what is a result, because we are a result-based company. So for us, how we define results is either it slows a disease process, or it could stop a disease process, or reverse a disease process. But all of those are success. Does that make sense? We can't always stop it. If there's a steamroller going down the hill, you can't always stop it. But what we can do is give better quality of life. I could go into, well, I won't. I could go into some stories of one of my favorite teachers in high school and how we just were able to restore his quality of life. Yeah.
We have the raffle.
Oh, we need to do the raffle. I'm so sorry.
I think that what we should do is call people back. We'll do the raffle ourselves and then call them.
You're going to call every person? Well, let's do it, and if it's somebody here, then we got it. How's that? Does that make sense? Okay, so we have 2 raffles, I think. Is there one thing we're raffling or 2? How many raffles do we have? What are we raffling? Okay, so we have, what we're raffling off tonight is a whole health system for a whole year for free. So I don't know if the person who got it last year is here tonight. I don't see them off chance, but there's bright lights up here. But I will just tell you that I have spoken with her health coach quite a bit. Donna, I think, is her health coach, right? And it's changed her life. And I'll tell you this too. It was somebody who that night had just purchased to start purchasing Balance of Nature. This has nothing to do with a purchase to us. I was so glad that was the lady who got it. They were going to buy it anyways. That doesn't have anything to do with it. But she was able to take what she needed and as much as she needed and it was arthritis is what she was dealing with. And is it all gone? No. But much. She talks about her mobility and what things she can do now. Do you know who I'm talking about? Tell me, I don't have all the facts on it. Without revealing who it was, do you know what differences it's made for her?
I've talked to her several times, but I know that she has a lot more mobility because it's very crippling and she can hardly move her hands, and it has changed her life. I've talked to her several times, so.
That's all. It's changed her life. Did it cure her arthritis 100%? No. But there's other people it has. I don't know why it does on some people and it doesn't on other people, or exactly how that chemistry works 100% of the time. But here's what I can guarantee, and that's what I had to have these studies for, is I can guarantee that if a person isn't getting extra energy, if a person isn't feeling something, I can guarantee you that it's working on your cells clear down to the DNA level. I know that, or I couldn't do what I do. Okay.
You want to be the?
No, she's going to be.
Okay, come here, Laura.
Laura's going to do the. You're going to be the. One person's going to love you, and a bunch of other people aren't going to like you.
So then we have her fly away to New York.
Yeah, we do it with her because she's going to leave in the morning. So I won't tell you her flight.
I might stay.
Yeah, she doesn't want to go anymore. She got here and she kept walking around the first day and said, I feel like I'm on a movie set. This place is so beautiful.
Okay, ready? You want to read it?
Okay. Keep this coupon. Oh, no, that's not it. The number is 814078.
By the way, this isn't mine. Somebody lost their ticket, and it was sitting over here. And I was just going to tell it to whoever lost it, but it's not the winner.
Who's that? Oh, that was your ticket that fell? That's you?
You got it? Awesome.
Wonderful. Congratulations.
And we also have a television.
Oh, and a TV. A smart TV.
Now, this is from Alive and Well. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to toot your horn a little bit. JR, what's that? Yeah, stand up, JR.
This is actually, I've talked to the rats and the rabbits families, and they wanted to donate this TV.
Instead of their livers, right? Alive and Well is a great program, and they go in for small businesses, and they reduce healthcare costs immensely, and I think and individuals, I guess. I didn't know that.
For our business.
Oh, I didn't know that. See, I just knew small businesses and individuals, but you pay a low monthly cost, and by that, I call it health care instead of sick care. Our current insurance program is sick care, because if doctors can keep you sick enough, and I'm talking about, it's my profession, but it's the truth. You know it. If they can just keep you sick enough, then they'll keep you coming back for more. And if you keep coming back for more, the more you go back, the more you get paid. Well, I like this program because you pay a monthly amount that's not an extravagant amount, and the healthier he can keep you, the less busy you make him. So it's a great program. So that's why he likes people to take Balance of Nature, he says. That's true.
That was for the lady up here? Oh, I don't know. Did you give this to her?
You gave it.
No, I have this one.
Someone gave me that, but should I read that, or should
I have no idea what it is.
Let's do that.
Really?
Yeah.
Put it in, stir it up in case, I don't know.
Right, or should I take this?
Yeah, that's cheating.
Yeah, if that was yours, sorry.
All right, here we go. For the TV from Alive and Well, Dr. Jared Thornton.
No.
No.
JR.
JR, sorry. I interviewed two of you tonight, sorry. JR, sorry. 814161.
All right. Woo. Now, the only caveat with this is we've said it, so we'll only watch healthy science movies, okay?
That's awesome. There you go.
Okay. I really appreciate everybody's time. I appreciate you listening. I am happy. Again, I'm letting.
How do you get so many servings in the
Okay, I'll answer that now. But I'm releasing anybody who doesn't want to sit here any longer, okay? Don't feel like I've entrapped you. This is the first time the seats are so close and I feel like you can't get out. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So she has a question that she's been wanting to take this for months, but she got a CD from us and it didn't work. So. Okay. Yes? Okay, I can give it to her. I can answer this or tell you what she said. So she takes a statin drug. She takes a statin drug that says that she can't have grapefruit, and we have grapefruit in ours. Let me explain that. Yes, I mean, thousands and thousands of people take it when it says don't do grapefruit. Here's a couple of things that I tell patients or customers that call or that I speak with. Number one is there's others that if a person's really uncomfortable with that, they can take a different statin drug. If they feel like they really want to, you can just go in and get a different one that's not part of the protocol. Number two, don't take offense to this, anybody, but I will tell you my feelings about statin drugs first. I used to do a lecture called FDA Friend or Foe. Since I have to work with them, I've stopped doing this, but it's still, the information is true. The only way you'll ever get a statin drug into my system is if you cut the strings in my lips, in my casket, and shove it between my teeth. Because there's too many other ways. You don't have to take a statin drug, and the research on it is so flimsy and so fake. And for years, I can give you so much research one side to the other, and the statin drugs, another thing they do horribly is, how many here have heard that we're having a vitamin D deficiency? It's horrible in the whole United States. Well, guess what? Statin drug inhibits vitamin D. Vitamin D, by the way, how many of you know this? Vitamin D is not a vitamin. Did you know that? What is it? It's a hormone. It's a hormone. I think it is so funny when I go places and I read on milk, it says, natural milk, no hormones, vitamin D fortified. I'm like, and vitamin D, how it got its name, and you can look it up, you have to dig to find it, but it's there, is in the 20s, I think it was, anyways, back when it first came out, then children were working in factories. And they were getting a disease called rickets. And their legs, the bones get soft and they start to bow. And so you get these bowed legs with rickets. And they figured out, they found this chemical that if they gave it to all the kids, it would stop their legs from bowing and they could keep them in labor longer. That's truth. And so they figured out all the kids drank milk. So if they could put it into milk, they could make sure all the kids got it. But you couldn't put it in milk because the government wouldn't let them, because that was like drugging everybody, so they called it a vitamin. That's it. It's not a vitamin. It's not a vitamin by any sense of the word. Your body makes it. It's not something you get from your diet. There is no factor of it being a vitamin. It's a hoax. Yes? Well, and so they told her she had to promise to take her vitamin D when she left the hospital. Vitamin D is very important in many functions of the body, all over the body, just like other hormones. And in the cellular function, it's very important. We always thought it was just for stronger bones, right? No, every aspect of cellular function, vitamin D has, hormone D has an important factor. But where do we get it from? Guess where we get it from? The sun. Guess how the sun makes it? Cholesterol. Cholesterol. So cholesterol is at the skin level, the sun hits it, and then it changes it to a chemical, and then that goes to the liver and finishes changing it, and then you have this hormone. But guess what statin drugs are inhibiting? So you're not getting the vitamin D you need. There's lots of other things that it causes and does, but it's just a crock. I'm not going to stand here if you take Balance of Nature, will your cholesterol go down? We see it all the time. I will say we see it every day. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you, go against your doctor, take this instead of it, but I will tell you that in me and my family and my mother, who's had stints and I love very much, and she's lived with us for a long time, she's had multiple stints in the past, and they said, you'll never be off of a blood thinner and you'll never be off of a statin drug. Well, she's not on either anymore. And she's living better and healthier than she has ever. She's 83 years old, and her health is far better than it was 5 years ago. Far better. Yes. Yes. Okay, hardening the arteries is actually a really cool thing if you really want to know the truth. We all think of it as plaque as being on the outside. You know, this is how most people think of it. Here's your artery and plaque building up out here, right? And then a piece can break off and go somewhere. That's not at all what happens. What happens is something comes along and sticks here. And then when it sticks, then it makes a little sore at a cellular level. It makes a little sore. And then underneath that, it gets under the lining here. And then all this lipids and these fats can get under here and start to build this up. But it's inflammation that causes that and starts that. And so, yes, cholesterol has a problem there, but not to the degree of what we think. And besides, if you have the right components of cholesterol, then it's not an issue. And the other thing is, just because you reduce cholesterol doesn't mean you reduce heart risk. All that they did was studies were done that showed that people with heart attacks generally had higher cholesterol. So they made the association that cholesterol causes heart attacks. But there's no other statistical proof other than that. And that's too small that's short thinking. And it's not all there is to it. And there's too many ways. In fact, going on a statin drug does not actually reduce your risk of heart attack or stroke. And I've got dozens of studies to show that before they started doing their own studies, and now they started showing that it can and yada, yada, yada. But you have to dig deep into the studies to figure this out. There was a study, or there was a group. Oh, how long ago was it? I haven't told this for years. But about 10 years ago, you're too young, JR, but I'm going to ask you anyways. Do you remember what the old standard for normal cholesterol used to be? Yeah, 250 to 300 was acceptable. And then it went to 150. And if it was over 150, then you had to treat it. And then a group of doctors got together. It was 8 doctors. This is documented. This is not just my story. 8 doctors got together, and they met in New York, that nasty town. No. They met in New York, and they had a meeting, and these 8 doctors who were quote-unquote the cholesterol gurus, they decided that if we could get cholesterol down below 100, then it's even better. They're even trying to get it lower than that. Well, guess what? Guess what else cholesterol makes? Brain tissue. Almost all of your hormones come from a form of cholesterol. And so it's messing with a lot of things. But anyways, and in thus doing, by lowering that cholesterol, no, the numbers I don't have straight, but by lowering it to those degrees, they figured at that time over 50% of America would be, or over 50% of adults in America would be on a statin drug. And that would increase their income from $12 billion to $26 billion a year. That's a lot of money. And then, Crestor, no, is that what it's called? Crestor was taken off the market about 20 years ago when that first came out because it was killing too many people, because it wastes the muscles so much. Nowadays, and if a patient goes in and says, "Doc, my muscles are just really sore," they don't take them off of it. That's because it's eating your muscles. It's eating the muscle tissue. Rhabdomyolysis. I mean, it's what it is. And doctors don't even, "Oh, no, you're okay," or whatever. But I guarantee you, I had at least dozens and dozens of patients. I just got them off their statin drug, and all their soreness went away. Amazing. But anyways, so then come to find out, these 8 doctors, I found out, it was written up, but 7 of them worked for the cholesterol companies. It's big pharma, and I didn't believe this initially. I just, no way. Come to find out, later on, the 8th one did too. They just hid it better. They all worked for big pharma. They were the ones, here's why they were the gurus. You've seen this. They're the ones who were lecturing at all the cholesterol conferences. Well, guess how they choose who lectures at those cholesterol conferences? They're all cardiologists. Guess how they choose? Whoever writes the most prescriptions. That's how it's chosen. Is that not true? I mean, I can tell you, and that's crazy. So cholesterol, statin drugs are my nemesis. They are the one that really brought me to light to much of this, and I was like, you've got to be kidding.
So
yes.
Why do certain drugs say you can't have?
Okay, so why those certain drugs say you can't have grapefruit is because it changes with the amount of elimination. Some of them, it will eliminate it too fast out of your system. There's a factor in your blood that breaks down these drugs of how long they'll stay in your system. And so what you can do, and this is what kills me, is most of them, it slows down how fast the drug will be eliminated. Grapefruit can. Now, another thing is, most of the time, they used to just be don't drink grapefruit juice. They never said don't eat a grapefruit. It was don't drink grapefruit juice because it's a concentrated amount and you can get so much. Why not have everybody drink a glass of grapefruit juice every day and cut the amount of medication in a fourth? I mean, it truly would work that way, yes. Okay, weight loss. Does it cause that you don't eat as much food, or why? Why do people get weight loss? Some people don't. Okay. Some people don't go gray. My wife has said many times, because we have people that really, their hair starts turning black again. And Susan said, man, it turned their hair black, and Balance of Nature turned your hair gray. Just the stress of just going through this and deciding to do it. What's that? Yeah, they don't have to run a business. Neither do I anymore. I love what I do. I give him all the stress, and he gets to do all of that. Now he's... So, I forgot what I was going to say. What's that? Weight loss. Oh, weight loss. Okay. So with weight loss, number one, it improves your metabolism. Oh, there's a great... I got one more. I'm going to show you this. Go to the donkey one, the jackass one. It's donkey. That means donkey. That means donkey. That's what it's called. I didn't name it. Yes. Okay, so before he goes, don't run it yet, though. So if there were a fire, don't show it yet. If there were a fire, and I was up there, and all of this was filled with junk through here, lots of stuff in here, and I had to get from there to out there because of a fire, how quick would I be versus if it was a clear pathway? Now play it. Okay, here's if there's junk in the way. Go. And so you guys don't know, these are lasers hitting them. They're being tased. They're tasers. Okay? It's difficult to get through there, isn't it? Now, we got this. Now, all I mean by that, and I hope you'll remember it better, is when the space is between your cells and even within your cells, but especially between the cells and in the cells, when it all gets junked up with stuff that it can't clear out, then your body spends a lot of energy trying to get a communication from one spot to another. But when Balance of Nature is a cellular cleanse, clear to the DNA level, it cleanses the cell. It's not like one of those cleanses where you get sick and, you know, it's not that kind of thing. It's very gentle, and it does it over time, but it cleanses, and because this DNA stuff we talked about, I know this for a fact, it cleans it up clear down to the DNA. So when one cell needs to communicate with another cell, which one do you want it to be? You know, and that's why we end up with more energy, okay? So metabolism can be increased. The beauty of it is if somebody is anorexic and they can't gain weight, anorexia isn't just a mental, you know, it's not just anorexia nervosa. Anorexia is just weight loss from a lot of different things, whether that's from illness, whether that's from medications or other things. But it will increase their weight, but it'll take somebody who is overweight and doesn't need to be, and I'll talk about with blood sugar here in a second, and it will help to decrease theirs because it cleans up this communication between the cells, gives a person what they sense as more energy. But it's not energy. Now, oh, by the way, I got to tell you this. I was going to, but remember this right here and this little messenger that comes up and down? That little messenger, and this is a study that was done in BYU. It's an amazing study. That little messenger, when it's coming up and then coming back down here, when somebody's on caffeine, it comes back and says, because it's running like this instead, and it just says, everything's okay, it's good, it's good, it's good. And then it can go ahead and divide. So it increases the risk. I won't say it increases cancer, but it increases your risk. That's what was proven in the study of any kind of cancer. Any kind. It increases the risk of that dividing without getting its answer back, because it's just like this. Well, balance of nature doesn't do that, and it's not a jittery energy. In fact, people will say, oh, I learned this the hard way in my practice. I had some women who started coming. I don't know why it was women. It just was. I remember them. And they started coming and said, oh, I can't take this. And I said, why not? They said, well, I can't go to sleep at night. And I thought, oh, that's crazy. That's weird. I had never heard any energy or anything at that point. This is very, very early on. And so I took them off of it. And then I thought, and I went, well, that's crazy. Anybody should be able to eat fruits and vegetables. And then their next visit, I said, well, when are you taking it? And they said, well, I take this in the morning and this at night. And I said, what, like 5, 6, 7 p.m. And I said, oh, no. Take this earlier in the day, because it just makes you feel like you have more energy. It truly, what it is you're not fatigued and dropping in bed at night anymore. And so I just had them start taking it earlier so they got to use that and enjoy that through the day instead. Now, if you take it at night, because I take it at night a lot, if you take it at night, I do it just before I go to bed. Anybody here who takes it at night like that for any reason? Why?
I always take it right before I go to bed because then I wake up with more energy. But I sleep really good all night. I sleep well.
Yeah. If a person will just, what it is I learned finally too, is I just said, if you feel like you have energy, just lay down and shut your eyes. You will go to sleep. It's not like caffeine. It doesn't have any of those characteristics, and so you need to know that. So, answer to your question is, it increases metabolism. I now take them all together. But I start people taking them separate because of digestion things, and our body isn't used to that much nutrition all at once. But you will absorb all of it. You're not going to, like if you took, for example, we've done studies on people because of the studies we were doing. Lex and I came back from Russia once, and I won't get into the details. Anyway, we've done studies that we've done actually fasting therapy that all you take is these capsules, large doses of them. And I'm not telling people to do this. You'd have to, because of medications and some other things, it should be under some supervision. But a lot of people do it anyways. But large doses, up to 20 and 20 of this and 20 of that, and every day, and eat nothing else but water. It sounds ridiculous, but let me tell you what it does. It does a power cleaning all the way to the cell, and it resets all of the endocrine system, so all of your hormone producing, all your glands, it resets them. And so when it resets them, and then you turn them back on one at a time. How I did this, let me explain. I wasn't going to do this, but I need to because it sounds crazy. I worked in Russia in a wing of the hospital that was just a fasting wing, literally. And as a long story, I'll make it short. We were studying pulmonary sarcoidosis, which is an autoimmune disease of the lungs. It mimics pneumonia. And they had been doing this treatment for over 20 years in this wing of the hospital, and it was a pure fast for 30 days. Just water. That's it. We did walks with the patients. No patient ever died of it, especially when I have somebody who's ever done this, and they're doing it even with this, and they'll call up after about 3 days and said, I'm going to die. My children are begging me to eat. I said, nobody's ever died of starvation in 3 days. Nobody. That's just your mind going through that part of it. So anyways, so we did 30 days. And This was my experience that really started to change how I started thinking about medicine, actually. I love medicine. I want everybody here to understand another thing. I wish I would have said this early, is sometimes people will think I'm anti-medicine. I am not anti-medicine, am I? I'm just very, very conservative. I'm anti-drug abuse. And the problem is 90% of the drugs we take are abusive on you because you don't know what you're taking and you don't need to have that many in you. So anyways, that being said, so I was I was with a group, we were doing rounds in the hospital. And this doctor came in with a stack of x-rays from the table about this high. And what you do in rounds is you go and you see these patients and you study the x-rays and you study all the labs and you see, and so we were going through this whole stack of x-rays. And the professor's name was Tatiana. I'll never forget her. So we were going through, and she was a teaching physician. In other words, she worked in a hospital that was a medical school. And every teaching physician's goal is to what? Publish. Especially when you're in a foreign country that the wall had just come down. To publish in a U.S. journal was huge. And so she was going through this, and she had x-rays of people at 6 months and x-rays of people or at diagnosis, and it looks just like pneumonia initially. And if you diagnose it wrong and you put them on an antibiotic, then it gets worse because it's an autoimmune disease and the antibiotic depresses their immune system further and actually can get worse. And then they come in and the doctor goes, oh, this is really bad. We got to put you on a stronger antibiotic, broader spectrum, and let's just really hit this hard. And then they come in dead from the effects of pneumonia, but it was just a bad diagnosis. And so anyways, so they put them purely on a fasting therapy. That's all it was. That's it. No drugs, nothing. And she had x-rays of at diagnosis, 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years, all the way 20 years out she was tracking these patients. That's a big study, isn't it? So then I said to her, Tatiana, why don't you send this in for publishing? This is amazing. Send this in for publishing. She was being very, very diplomatic. And she said, oh, I have. And I said to her, what do you mean you have? And she said, they did not publish. And I said, Tatiana, I have seen studies in the American Medical Journal of 30 people in 3 months. You've got hundreds of people over 20 years. What do you mean they didn't publish? I'll help you get it published. And she looked at me and she goes, I said, why didn't it publish? And she looked at me and she goes, I'll never forget it, changed my life. She goes, well, in America you are having these very large pharmaceutical companies. Then she looked at me and she goes, are you understanding me? It changed my life because I didn't believe it. And when I started to see those things, I went, okay, I'm not anti-drug, I am anti-statin. Okay, will you go to the Fiber and Spice video? And don't feel like, she's got great questions, so that's why I'm following these. What's that? The very end one, it's a movie at the very end of all the slides. Yeah, the video. You know what I'm talking about? Oh, yes, that right there. Okay.
pain, and certainly celiac disease and gluten-related problems.
Approximately 15% of all adults and over 30% of elderly people have constipation. This still accounts for approximately 8 million annual physician visits in the United States.
Colon cancer is the leading preventable cause of death in the U.S.
It seems Americans have become a nation of people with all sorts of digestive problems.
An alarming trend in young adults has health experts concerned.
New research shows a sharp rise in colorectal cancers in people as young as their 20s and 30s.
People born in 1990 have twice the risk of colon cancer and 4 times the risk of rectal cancer as people born in 1950 faced at the same age.
Some of it may be due to the fact that there have been changes in young people in the millennial generation in terms of a more sedentary lifestyle, dietary changes, obesity.
Americans over age 50 are actually 16 times more likely to develop that cancer. The concern is what will happen to millennials as they grow older. Will their cancer risk spike? We'll just have to wait and see.
See me when it gets worse. I'm like, you gave them nothing to help. This right here is just showing a state that we're in. I don't like using fear tactics. That's not what this is. This is reality. And that's a big difference. Fear tactics are not the same as reality. So when you take balance of nature like this, we have, so to speak, masticated it. We've ground it to its smallest particle form possible that we can get it to and keep it without any heat, light, or air processes. And we get it to as small as possible. So therefore, the effects of the fiber, when you eat kale, for example, you're not getting the effects of the fiber as much. You get very little effects. There's still some, but you get less. Because we take it down so small that your body can extract every chemical out of it. Make sense? Because how many here have ever eaten spinach? Okay, now how many here have ever seen the spinach in the toilet? Okay, because we chew it, but we don't get all of it out, period. Well, when you take balance of nature, we've taken it to such a small point, you can get all of the chemistry out. That's very important. That's part of our success. So we have to have fiber, though. It's very, very important for the bowel. And at the same time, the most potent foods that we have are called spices. But they're still a food, but they're very, very, very potent. In fact, man, I was shocked once. We had some of our clove powder, and they put it into a styrofoam cup, and then I was gone for a couple of months doing some lectures or studies or something. And I came back, and this styrofoam cup was sitting on my desk, and I picked it up, and the bottom of the cup was just jelly. Because the oils in that cloves are so strong, very, very strong. And all of our spices have that effect. You've heard of turmeric. There's a big deal with turmeric right now. Well, turmeric is very important. But alone, it doesn't have nearly the effect as with other spices. And so when they're just given turmeric, and here's another thing about turmeric. What is it? What color is it? Have you ever seen how potent that color is? You put that in a little water and put it on your shirt, you may never get that off. Yeah, it's a what's that? The turmeric is in here. Can you take it? You can continue. You don't need to. That's the beauty of it. It's in here. And there's 12 spices in it, and those spices are also anti-inflammatory spices. They're also sugar. Oh, I didn't cover that one. I would have loved to, but whoever wants to, I will. But so it helps reduce blood sugar levels because the fiber amount. Also, I do have people, for example, who do want to lose weight. Then they take a couple of scoops of this about 30 minutes before meals. That's just purely filling it up so that you're satiated before you go in to eat, and so you're not indulging in all the fats. The other thing is it does carry it through, and people see a very quick effect with this. But here's the beauty, too. It's a balance. It doesn't cause, in fact, if somebody has diarrhea, you take this. Well, who would ever think of taking something that's going to cure constipation for diarrhea? I generally mix it now with, I like coconut milk, I'll use almond milk. Some people use, if you use juice, I recommend a little juice and some water. You can just make it straight into water. I'd say half the people do that. Today I went out and had a glass of it in tomato juice. It's really yummy. Some people mix it in milk. I'll never forget the first patient that came in and told me they mixed it in milk. I was like, you are nuts. They're a really nice couple. What's that? Yeah. And the only thing I recommend, if you put it in a smoothie, put it in last and don't blend it really hard, because we've gone through great difficulty to make sure that it's not broken down into a pure powder, because each one of those little psyllium husks we want to remain as in full, because that's what expands then and does its job as it comes through. Don't take, that's the difference. Metamucil, for example, is kind of like a paste when it gets there. It's just this sticky paste, whereas this isn't. It keeps its form. We want that fiber to keep its form. So people use it for weight loss, but probably the most success I've seen with it is in arthritis and sugar and... Okay, we got another one. We'll go. I don't care. I like them all. You know what? It's marketing. She says, what are these discounts you get on the way? One week it's 35, one week it's 50, one week it's... You know, I don't know how they decide that always. But I do know that it's to help people to make that decision the first time to try it. Yeah. I'm sure they have some great thing. And it's on the first one. Then we'll have people that, you know, a year later or something say, well, I'm going to quit and come back on. Well, we can't really do that, you know, obviously. But there was at one time, I don't know if we still do this. See, I better shut up, because we used to do some things like birthdays, and I don't know what they do now. But what's that? Oh, thyroid. Okay, so we were talking earlier about the endocrine system, which is glands, and they put out chemicals to help functions of your body. And the thyroid is very, very important. What happens with the thyroid is it can just get sluggish. Now, so as the cells start cleaning up and functioning better, many people are able to decrease their thyroid medications. But you do it with a blood test. You do it responsibly. I don't tell anybody to go home and stop taking all your drugs and take this. I've never done that with a patient. I'd never tell anybody to do that except for statin drugs. No, I hate statins. That's my personal opinion. Talk to your doctor about it if you want, or look it up. Absolutely. In fact, oh, sorry. All you heard was absolutely. That's the answer to the question. Next. No, I'm kidding. She said, so do I need to take vitamins if I'm taking all of this, or does it take the place of the vitamins? Completely it takes the place of the vitamins. I didn't know that for a long time. I had to learn that. But that balance of chemistry that we talked about, we found that sometimes somebody's just not getting the result that we're trying to help them get. And then we start finding out and we go, oh, well, you're still taking all that other chemistry. Well, stop taking the other chemistry and double up on this for a little while and get that into your blood serum level, and you'll see it changes that, because you're getting hundreds of thousands of chemicals instead of 16, and your body's not trying to just sort through that. Yes? Okay, both of those, I'll tell you. Iron pills are wonderful constipators. And personally, there are some things, and there's some people, I don't have a blood test of you, so I can't answer that one as well. If you have a chronic anemia, then we may have to do some other things. But I'll tell you, there's also beetroot is very, very high in iron and very assimilated without causing problems. Yeah, exactly. How often does that occur? And the other one was vitamin D. I wouldn't take vitamin D any longer, because when you get all of the right ingredients and you get 10 to 15 minutes of sunshine a day, that's all it takes. And you actually store up a storage of vitamin D, and it works properly. You know how they make vitamin D? You know how they make vitamin D? This is crazy. So a lot of the vitamin D commercially, one of the ways they make it is they take lanolin, they take the oil off of sheep, and then they radiate it like the sun would be hitting it, and then they take the chemical from that and put it in a pill and feed it to you. You think it works the same? No, it's not the same. So, yes. Neuropathy. What's that? Oh, thyroid. I'm sorry. Yes. So thyroid, how it works, it's real simple and fast. It cleans up the functions. Remember that hallway that we were looking at? It literally starts cleaning them up, and it cleans up the stimulators of your thyroid to produce. It also increases the ability of the thyroid to be entered into the cell. Let me hit blood sugar real fast, because this is pretty simple and fast. It's a good one. I love this one. So if insulin is really cool. You've got the blood vessel here, and you have sugars floating through here, right? And sugars need to get out to the cell here, okay? And so these vessels come out really small, and they come along here, and they bump into the cell, and that's called a capillary, and and then it comes through here. And the sugar, what insulin does is it takes, and you have little, well, let me back up. You have little spots on your cell, for example, in the membrane, like this, let's say, and they're a particular shape. Insulin, it goes along, and it just tumbles along through here until it finds a spot that it can fit in there, and that allows sugar to enter into the cell. That's what insulin is. That's what it does. Make sense? So it's the key to let sugar into the cell. The problem with it is, and that's why I'm hitting it with neuropathy, the problem with it is because when sugar stays out here, oh, well, no, I already covered thyroid pretty much. This is a lot the same, but he asked about neuropathy before too, didn't you, earlier? Somebody did. Thought it was you. Anyways, thyroid is very similar to this factor, that it increases the use. Now, if somebody's on thyroid, thank you, I'm jumped onto my favorite too fast. Somebody is on a thyroid medication, I highly recommend, and I know multiple other doctors that do, Synthroid is not the best one. Armour Thyroid is what I used for many years. It was only nature, and there's NP Thyroid is the same kind of thing. Those are all desiccated thyroid from animals. And because you get that, you get the whole component of all of the thyroid. Armour Thyroid was around long before they had anything for thyroid. And it worked. It worked very, very well. It worked better than Synthroid. But yeah, it can be called raw thyroid. It can be called a lot of things. It has to be raw or it wouldn't work anymore. But anyways, so Armour Thyroid was around long before Synthroid. As soon as the drug companies came out with Synthroid and could patent it, because you can't patent animal thyroids. That's already, God made them. And so as soon as they came out with Synthroid, which was a chemical that they could mimic it, but it's only one aspect of all of those hormones that come from your thyroid doesn't only make one. And so then they started writing bad reviews on it of Armour Thyroid, saying, well, you can't standardize how much is in each one because you can't measure it because one animal's might be higher and one animal's might be lower, and they started trying to give bad examples. Well, they made it look bad. That's all they did, so that they could further the sales of Synthroid. It was a marketing scheme. That's it. But Synthroid increases osteoporosis faster than these others from like, I'll say Armour Thyroid, but anything like Armour Thyroid. Synthroid increases osteoporosis. It's not a matter of if, it does, period. It increases osteoporosis. I try to get all my patients off of Synthroid, and with time, many people can get off of their thyroid medicine completely, and it reduces goiters and things. It's not because it's magical, it's because it just increases the function of the body. I've got an employee here who's been on, you don't care if I say this, right? I'm not your doctor, I can say it. Who's been on a thyroid medication. She still is on a thyroid medication. Cool, She just lowered her dosage last week, though. So I'm not saying it cures everything all the time, but it's amazing what it does help. Yes? Exactly. 100%. She said, God has given our bodies the ability to repair and take care of itself. And as long as we give it the proper nutrients, then our bodies can do that. Balance of nature doesn't cure anything. I tell people this all the time. It just gives your body the true, honest, whole, perfect nutrition that was made for it so your body can do it. And if you can eat 31 different fruits and vegetables every day in a variety, in over 15 servings of 31 different fruits and vegetables every day, you probably don't need it. But I will say you're probably not chewing it enough. You need to chew more. So, yes. What's that? Oh, neuropathy. Okay, that's where I was going here. Let me finish this one then. So the sugars coming through the vessels, sugar actually in higher concentrations becomes toxic to the nerves. And that's why that happens. So what happens is if we can get the sugar out of the vessel faster, then the nerve can have the chance to start heal. I'll just tell you, I didn't even know it would do anything for neuropathy. We have, what's that? No, the sugar from fruits, there's never going to be enough because it's balanced with what's in it. But juices would do it because you've taken all the rest of the chemistry away. So juices could be a problem, but sugar combined with the proper chemistry isn't ever going to cause this problem unless somebody's already severely diabetic and they're making no insulin. That's a whole different thing, okay? Then we have to do something else. But this is type 2 diabetes frequently. We just had an employee Monday, announce in our staff meeting that when he started with us, he had a yeah, I was just saying if I wanted to say A1C or trying to figure out a better way to say this. You're good. His A1C was 11.7? 11.7, I believe, when he started. And just through working with us, having all the balance of nature he wants to take, changing a few things, it's a whole triad, it's not just that. Then feeling like he could do some other things. What's that? And he works with a health coach, thank you. And he's lost weight through it and some other things, but he just announced that his A1C was down to 5 something. I mean, it's in half. And this is all he's done. So that is going to decrease the amount or the chances of him not having neuropathy. Now, as far as reversing it, I'll never forget the first time I had a patient with this. I was working, and we had a little office, and this guy came in. He was from Salt Lake, and he came in, and he was marching like this. He goes, "Look, Doc, look." And I said, "Great." Okay. He wasn't really my patient. He was just a customer that I had helped through some other things, but I didn't know he had neuropathy. He says, no, you don't understand. I had to walk like I was on eggshells for the last 5 years. And his wife was standing next to him and said, "I thank you. He has kicked me to death all night for the last 5 years. And he doesn't anymore." And so does it always take away everybody's neuropathy? No. I have a damaged nerve in my hand, okay? And I would say it's 90% gone. I mean, I barely can notice it in these 3 fingers now. But it was damaged. Even as a doctor, we didn't figure we'd ever get that feeling back. It was a long story. But it helps. It doesn't always cure everything. Does it slow it down? Does it stop it? Or does it reverse it? Those are all results. That make sense? So, and that's why it decreases the amount of sugar going down, and then the Schwann cells, which is a part of the nerve sheath, can then heal because sugar is actually devastating that area. And the other thing is it stops blood flow with diabetes, and it can't get down to those areas, and that's why you get ulcers on your feet, on the extremities in places. And then they can't heal because they don't get the right nutrients to heal. We just had one, I just had somebody today I could pull it up on my, I get on my phone, all of the success stories that the health coaches get are sent to me every single day. And just today, somebody here would probably have this and know it better than me, was a lady who had four ulcers on her feet. And she said three of them are gone, and the one that's left is very small, and she anticipates it'll be gone within the next few weeks. And she's had them for 5 years. So, what's that? Oh, so that one, I would say, we have pictures, we have things, but again, I can't sit here and tell you this is going to cure all that ails you. But I can tell you it will help. And I know this from these studies that it'll help clear to the DNA level. And I know that right here.
It's one of the questions that's on the board, but simply because the other day I called a friend of mine and she said, I'm sick in bed. She said, I have the flu. I said, oh, I'm so sorry. How'd you get that? Whatever. She goes, I just took a flu shot and now I'm sick. So she was in bed for 3 days with a flu shot. So somebody asked about that, and because it is that sort of so-called season, I was wondering what you felt about that.
This has nothing to do with balance of nature. This is my opinion, but I'm going to tell you, my mother was with me in the car yesterday, and as we were driving along, she said, oh, we passed a store, and it said, free flu shots. And I said, oh, isn't that nice? They give those in the grocery store now. And she laughed and said, oh, Douglas, no, it's at the pharmacy in there. And I said, yeah, I know. It's just, and she said, oh, should I get one? And I said, are you kidding me? You haven't had a cold or the flu in 18 months, and now you want to go back to have one? So I love my mother very much, and I don't have her get them. I don't get them, and I don't recommend them. Here's also the other reason. Oh, golly, I don't have time. How it came out was horrendous. It was the swine flu. And it's a long story, it's a crock, and we can't know what the flu is this year because it mutates. It's a virus, and a virus changes every single year. That's why there's no cure for the common cold. The only cure for the common cold is your immune system, is it always knows when it's bad. But they can't have there is not a vaccine for the common cold or the flu. It changes every year. So you know what they do? They go back and say, well, these were the most common ones. Let's just make a virus for the old one. Well, that doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Anyways, I don't recommend it. Yeah.
And he said, now if you go out and get pneumonia, I can cure you. But there is nothing for the flu. And that night, my friend and I went dancing, and it was colder than a you-know-what in Chicago. And I just affected pneumonia. And I went back to the doctors when I was so sick, and he said, I've got a bed for you with pneumonia, and we're going to get you well in a week. And I went, thank you very much. What happened to the flu? You got rid of it when you got pneumonia.
I don't know if you heard that, but she had pneumonia. She had the flu. The doctor said there's no cure for the flu, but if you have pneumonia, I could fix it. So she went out and got pneumonia, came back in, they cured it, and she said, what about the flu? And she said, oh, the flu left when you got the pneumonia. So is it true that your body can only take one virus at a time? No, that's not true. There can be multiple viruses, but what is true is there aren't multiple flus going around generally at one time. And so, but yeah, I mean, for example, herpes simplex on your, the cold sores, I don't care what kind of herpes, it doesn't matter. You always carry that. Your body just contains it. And so that's why we have success, for example, with cold sores for people. They'll take an increased amount if they start to get into stress because, anyways, you don't have to take lysine generally anymore with this because it's already there and it keeps the immune system in control and it just reduces them immensely. Some people completely. Yes? Okay, I love fibromyalgia discussions. I'll tell you. She asks, autoimmune diseases seem to be so prevalent today, and what's the deal with them? And she said, I have fibromyalgia. You know what? So do I. And you know what? You know how much I suffer from it now? Never. Never. But I had it since I was, now I know what it was. I didn't know when I was 15 what it was because there was no diagnosis for it. I thought it was a flu, thank you very much. But fibromyalgia, where do we start? You have, okay, it's a virus, and it makes it so that your body doesn't eliminate, for example, lactic acid. Lactic acid, when we exercise, builds up, and that's what causes sore muscles. Well, if you can't get rid of it, then it turns to inflammation. The problem is, inflammation always yields scar tissue. Whether it's a little or a lot, it always forms scar tissue. Teeny bits or whatever. Just a minute. So then, that's what makes me go everywhere, and I got to stay here for a second. So then, what Balance of Nature does is twofold. It keeps the virus under check, so it can't come out. And number two, it cleans house faster. So when I was a kid, excuse me, well when I was a kid too, but even when my kids were small, I loved snow skiing. I couldn't go out and just ski a full day. I had to ski a little bit and then live with a fever for a day or even a day. They didn't even know necessarily how bad it was. But I had to live with it, and then I'd do a little bit more, and I could build up and get through it. But I could never water ski because you can't do that just a little bit. And I would be down with the flu, and I didn't know that's what this would do. But I have case upon case and letter upon letter of people saying, you saved my life from fibromyalgia. I am yeah. So that's the short and easy answer, but that's what it is. And remember, simplicity is the ultimate sophistication. Now you can understand it. So, yes. Do I have to take supplements if I'm taking this? No, you don't have to. In fact, it will work better if you don't. And you'll save a lot of money. Yes? Okay, everything, he asked about the quality control of accessing, of getting the product. Everything, this is not, by the way, from our stock. We just bought this because, it looks nice and it will taste yummy. But everything that comes in, somebody asked if it's organic. And I said it's better than organic. Let me explain that. Not everything is government stamped organic that we use. I don't know about you, but I trust my studies better than the government, and I'll explain why. Organic, what it is here's the true issue with organic and why it works and why it really can really be good if it's done properly. Organic just means that they have built the immune system of that plant up enough that they don't need to spray it for bugs and worms and things like that. That the plant, excuse me, nobody's going to want this. But the plant its immune system is strong enough that it can do it itself and keep the bugs and the fungus and all those things off of it. And so it is a better food. But here's the problem, and you'll see this you can go back and witness it yourself if you want to go to some of these farms. If you have an apple crop and they've come in and the inspector comes in and he looks it all over and everything looks great, and a week later you do get an infestation of something, a lot of those farms will go out and spray it at night because they're not going to lose their crop and they're not going to lose their status because it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to get that status. Does that make sense? And it's proven. And so here's where I got away from that, is everything we do, everything we receive is tested for heavy metals, it's tested for pesticides, aerobic bacteria, anaerobic bacteria, and nutritional content. And we have had to refuse more organic material for pesticide or heavy metal than you'd want to imagine. So I just started going, I'm not going to rely on that. I'm going to rely on our studies because I know what I'm giving you is good. Here's the other thing. You go to the store and you buy organic. Where's the study that shows that there's no bacteria, no pathologic bacteria, or that there's no pesticides on it? It's not there. You just have to trust that. Yes? I wouldn't have imagined. She drove truck for 25 years. Okay.
That area and make sure that no pesticides or anything are used, like you said. But they're not putting it on anything. They can't put it on the ground. And when after 1 year, the feds will come in and go, how long has this been? They say this long, and they say, okay, fine, it's organic, now you can plant.
Yeah, so she said she drove truck and mostly for produce. And her experience was that they would they'd have to leave a soil barren for 1 year with nothing on it, no pesticides, no chemicals. And then the government, the FDA would come in and they'd say, how long has this been, not been planted, not been used? And they'd say 1 year, and they'd say, okay, now you're organic. So it's just, I just don't trust it. I would rather test everything like we do, and I know what we're getting is real. So, how many are in this? When you take 3 fruit capsules and 3 vegetable capsules, you get the equivalence of more than 10 servings of fruits and vegetables every day. And in a variety of 31 different ones. And you get it all. You absorb it all. It goes all to your system. So it's, a lot of people take 6 and 6. If somebody has cancer or something, then they're taking 12 and 12. Because it's fighting other chemistry and other processes they're going through. Yes? Can you use it on animals? Yes. In fact, we had a dog that had hip dysplasia. And what's that? Yeah, that's true. We have and we have one too. No, I know he has one too. But
we also have customers that purchase it for their dogs, for show dogs.
Yeah. And we've had horse trainers that use their horses for the barrels that love it because they don't get the bleeding in the lungs afterwards. It's difficult to get horses to take it unless you get it into the cube somehow, or because if it gets down as powder in the bottom of the trough, and we've been all the way through this. And what we did with them was there's always a little bit of waste, and so we would sweep up off the floor and everything, put it in a bag and save it for them, and they'd use it on their horses. They don't raise horses anymore, and we didn't. In fact, they begged us to make a product for horses and put it in the horse magazines, but I was busy with people, so I didn't. So, but anyways, we had a dog that had hip dysplasia, and he'd get up and he'd wiggle and walk like it's all right, excuse me. And so one day I thought, well, hey, why not, So then I'd take him, and I'd start throwing him to him, and he'd catch them in his mouth and chew them up, and I knew he'd do that because he'd catch bumblebees and stuff. He used to when he could. And so then, with time, I could throw him in the air, and he was jumping this high to grab him out of the air and chew him up and eat him. He had no more hip dysplasia. It went away completely. So, can you? Yeah. I mean, and does it work? Yeah. Put it right in their food. Oh, here, it's the same. What the beauty of it is there is no overdose with this. And that's one of the studies we did. And so it's whatever you deem that they're needing at that time. I mean, I would give him, I used to give him, it was a bigger, like German Shepherd, but 3 or 4 a day of each. And it wasn't every day because I wasn't that nice when I had him in my hand or whatever, and it still worked. But I love animals, but that wasn't my purpose at the time. But, overdose. There's a beauty of it. One of the studies we did is how much is too much. Now, remember I started to tell you about the fasting And you can, I've done this. I'll just tell you what, I have done this personally for 20 days, 21 days, I don't remember. Yeah, anyway, 20, 21 days where I just took Balance of Nature capsules in large dose. Now let me tell you something. You cannot do that with a vitamin. It will kill you. You would die, literally. It will kill your kidneys. You can't do that. But with this, you can, and you come out of it healthier than ever. But, so there is no overdose, and that's one of the studies we did, is how much is too much. So there was one day, one Sunday morning, I got a call, and this gal, she says, oh, Dr. Howard, my son, he's 2 years old, and he got the bottle of fruits, and they're really yummy, and they're fruits. He said he got the bottle of fruits, and he got under the table, and I didn't see him while I was getting ready for church, and he ate the whole bottle. What do I need to do? I said, buy a new bottle on Monday. You know, that's it. You know, is he going to have a stomach ache? Nope, probably not. He's going to be okay. It's balanced. It's balanced. That's why these particular fruits and vegetables were chosen, is because you don't have negative side effects from it. Is he going to get diarrhea? Nope, he's going to be fine. Yes? How often do you get colds? How long? Okay. How long have you been? You have had it twice this year. Okay. How often do you generally get it? How much Balance of Nature are you taking? Okay. In all honesty, think of the spark and think of the flame. You already know you have a patch of grass that's weak. As soon as you start getting something, this is what I would do and what I do with my own mother, as soon as you feel a spark, I mean a tickle, anything, double what you're taking. Not forever, for a few days, just double it. It's not going to harm you, and it will give it that much of a kick. And I would be willing to bet you can go without the pneumonia. I used to get pneumonia annually. My wife used to tell this story of, you know, every morning I had this big, you know, and I'd cough this big black yucky loogie up, and you know, and she was so kind about it always until I didn't have it anymore. And then one day I heard her telling somebody, oh yeah, Doug used to have this horrible yucky cough every morning. It was just gross. You know? And I don't have it anymore, but I could plan on having pneumonia annually. I don't have your autoimmune deficiency, your immune deficiency. But I would watch it very carefully. I have to be honest, and I know you for many years. You know I would steer you well, but especially with an immune deficiency, I wouldn't do those immunizations personally. And I would never steer you wrong, but that's my personal opinion. And everybody has to decide that. Yes? That's because you're That's because you're immune deficiency. In other words, if you're immune deficiency. Yeah, it says if you're immune deficiency, don't get those shots for like the shingles, for example. Okay, I'm getting the signal. They're going to shut us out. Thank you, everybody. Yes, one last one. This is it.
Better be really good. That's a great question.
Oh, okay. I'll do that really fast. Heat, air, and light destroy the chemistry that are the nutrients in your food. Sometimes people will say live enzymes. Well, there's no such thing as live enzymes. It's a chemical. They're not live and they're not dead. They're active, or they're okay, dead you could say, but they're not live. But heat, light, and air are what cause oxidation. And oxidation is what breaks things down It's what makes rust, for example. And those same three things do it, and moisture. But, and so what we use is, it's in a vacuum process with no heat processes and no air process, no air because it's in a vacuum, and no, let's see, heat, no light processes. And because that's what breaks those chemicals down, and it's oxidation, and oxidation is what destroys the nutrition. That make sense? So that's why we do it that way. And it's...
can I say from a one, and I wish everyone is here to hear that, because that is one of the best questions, just because we have so many products that have come out to compete with us, especially in the recent, like, 2 years, and that's the biggest difference. But it's the hardest thing to educate the public on. And we could if we were to do that, it would cheapen our product as far as cost by 1/5, and it would cheapen the quality of the product by 1/3. So, but the public will never understand that. They'll never get it.
Now, he says that's what most people, the biggest difference between us and them is. That is a huge difference, but the biggest difference is they have no science. They have no study. They just put some crap together to make a business and to try and copy what's out there. And I guarantee you, they don't have anything to back that. On top of that, they don't have those studies because their stuff, when you use air-dried and when you use heat-dried and spray-dried stuff, they won't get the same results. That's why. But what's that? Sun-dried is light and heat, to be on, and air. And it actually does break down. Tomatoes are one thing that will hold on to it well. But sun-dried apples, they're going to turn brown, aren't they? Because that's oxidizing all the nutrients. Anyway. 2 people mentioned they had health problems. Okay, the reason, if somebody's not getting a benefit that they're looking for with 3 and 3, then
all employees, if the fruits and veggies, after Dr. Howard takes whatever he wants, then it's up for grabs for employees. Go ahead.
Anyways, there's not enough to fight the fire. It's a bigger fire.